Chapter 1048. After watching for 3 days, Lan Xian'er returned to the surface under Yi Chen's instructions and continued to stab the star iron pillar. 5 days later, Lan Xian'er had stabbed 2/3 of the way through. She had reached the third drive realm, but the third drive could not overlap with the previous 2 drives. It was not complete, so she could not pierce through the star iron pillar. Just a bit more. Lan Xian'er returned to the surface to watch Yi Chen forge swords. Yi Chen's swordsmithing technique had long reached the realm of perfection. He had been able to forge 12 supreme-grade swords in a month because he could see through it. He did not hesitate when forging swords. Every time the hammer fell, he was 1 step closer to completion. There was no hesitation, no sluggishness. Rather than saying he was forging swords, it was more like he was practicing swords. He practiced to his heart's content. There was no hesitation, no sluggishness. Every move was natural. Sometimes, even he did not know why he would swing the hammer. Clang! Another hammer fell, and sparks flew in all directions. It contained a peerless sword intent. Lan Xian'er wanted to dodge, but she didn't know why she couldn't. With a poochie sound, several sparks pierced through her body, burning her flesh. What was even more terrifying was that even though it was just a few sparks, it was like an invincible sword chi, exploding bloody holes in her body one after another. Countless fine sword chi minced her flesh and blood. "Did you comprehend it?" Yi Chen asked. "I see. Thank you, Mr. Yi." Using the immortal body, Lan Xian'er returned to the surface. Standing in front of the star pillar, she stood there for a day and a night. At dawn, she suddenly pulled out her sword and stabbed at the star pillar. The speed of this stab was unparalleled, like a sword from the gods. Fut! The star iron pillar was pierced through. Countless cracks appeared around the hole. This was the destructive power of the third drive. The wind blew, and the star iron pillar completely fell apart. After piercing through the star iron pillar, Lan Xian'er smiled. Third drive had been completed. The next 5 months should be enough for her to open the Anatta realm. However, when she thought of the flying sparks, she couldn't help but shiver. Sir Yi's realm had indeed reached an unfathomable realm. Every spark contained the third drive. Although not much power was poured into it, it was still shocking. Young Master Yi is forging a sword, so it's not a good idea to disturb him. I'll continue to familiarize myself with the mysteries of third drive. Lan Xian'er was not in a hurry to find Yi Chen. It was already her fortune that Yi Chen could teach her. Because she wanted to open the Anatta realm, she had to interrupt other people's business. She could not do such a thing, nor could she forgive it. 3 stacks was broad and profound. In the early stages, one could only use it wholeheartedly. In the middle stages, one could use it at will. In the late stages, one could use it at will. As long as one wanted, one could use it from any part of their body. As for Yi Chen's 3 stacks, which could only be executed with sparks flying everywhere, it was impossible to estimate his realm. Another 6 days passed, and the month was up. At this time, Lan Xian'er had already stabilized the third drive. She could be considered to be at the peak of the early stages of the third drive. As long as she wasn't too distracted, she could use the third drive. The third drive is indeed powerful. When the third drive is combined, it's not as simple as 3 times the power. The third drive is already more than 10 times the power, and it can completely destroy matter. The first drive could shatter the structure of matter, the second drive could destroy matter itself, and the third drive could annihilate matter's most basic molecules. It seems that you have stabilized the third drive. Next, I will help you open the Anatta realm. Originally, after comprehending the third drive, you should have touched the Anatta realm. However, because the time was too short, you didn't have much time to comprehend it. Under normal circumstances, it would take at least 3 years. The third drive was a checkpoint. Breaking through to the third drive meant touching the Anatta realm. Lan Xian'er had lost too much time to comprehend, and now, Yi Chen wanted to help her break through to the Anatta realm. Helping someone break through to the Anatta realm wasn't something that could be done just by saying it. Yi Chen was certain that he could do it because every single one of his cells contained the rank 5 Immortal sword intent. Under the operation of the sword intent, he could already deduce a trace of the mysteries of his cells. It might only be 1,000th or even a 10,000th of the mysteries, but he still grasped a trace. The Anatta realm was the effective use of the body's potential under the Anatta realm. This potential was the potential of the cells. Of course, there was no such thing as cells in this world. It was usually described as particles of flesh and blood. As long as he could force out a trace of the cell's potential and combine it with the state of mind, he would be able to achieve the profound meaning of the Anatta realm. At that time, he would naturally be able to effectively use the potential under the Anatta realm. The third drive had already given Lan Xian the foundation to open the Anatta realm. What Yi Chen needed to do next was to push the boat with the current. Force out the human body's potential and enter the stage of forcing out the human body's potential at any time. These are 2 steps. Attack me with all your strength and don't hold back. The stronger, the better. Yi Chen said. Yes, Mr. Yi, be careful. Lan Xian really didn't hold back. She knew very well that even if her strength increased several times, she wouldn't be able to do anything to Yi Chen. Holding the sword in her hand, Lan Xian slashed at Yi Chen with all her strength. Yi Chen stretched out his right hand and spread his fingers. Clang! The palm and sword collided, and Lan Xian took half a step back. The strong shockwave spread out and was absorbed by the restrictions and formations in the courtyard. Okay, I already know your limit. The second time they fought, Yi Chen only used the same amount of strength as his opponent. The third time was the same. On the 18th time, Yi Chen's strength began to increase, but it was only a trace. Lan Xian could still withstand it. The 19th time, the 20th time, the 98th time, Lan Xian couldn't take it anymore. Yi Chen only increased his strength by a little each time. It didn't seem much, but it was like adding straw to a camel. One day, the camel would be crushed and couldn't get up again. The 100th time, blood flowed from the corner of Lan Xian's mouth. The 200th time. The 300th time. Puff! Lan Xian spat out a mouthful of blood, and her face was pale gold. I think you should be able to last until the 400th time. At the 500th time, your whole body will collapse and your life will be hanging by a thread, Yi Chen said. Mr. Yi, continue. Lan Xian said firmly. Okay. Yi Chen nodded. He increased his strength bit by bit to force out the other's potential. The reason why he didn't increase his strength to the limit that the other could bear was because it was too dangerous. If he wasn't careful, he could kill the other. If he did that, the other wouldn't be able to comprehend too much. It was the demonic path, not the right path. Of course, not everyone could do what Yi Chen did. Not to mention Yi Chen's realm, just his soul power that was 10 times stronger was rare. There had never been a second person who could do it. The 400th time. The 400th time. Lan Xian exploded into a bloody mist. After the bloody mist condensed into a human body, her eyes began to dim. The 500th time. Bang! This time, Lan Xian only kept a part of the bloody mist. Continue after a week. In the first 500 attacks, Yi Chen didn't use his sword intent. If he did, it would erase the other's soul and will. If it accumulated, she would die without a doubt. But even without sword intent, enduring 500 attacks from Yi Chen wasn't a good thing. Lan Xian felt very tired. She couldn't lift any strength in her body. She felt that something was wrong. The undying body also had a limit. It couldn't be used too many times. Obviously, Lan Xian's undying body was reaching its limit. A week later. The two fought 720 times. Another week later. The two fought 1,000 times. Week after week. 3.5 months had passed since Lan Xian came to Fallen Dustsword Pavilion. It's time to break through. This time, the two fought 1,888 times. After 1,888 times, boom! A terrifying aura burst out from Lan Xian's body. This was a phenomenon forced out by her potential. Lan Xian's hair grew longer and shone blue. Her eyes turned silver and extremely focused. Under the selfless realm, her battle intent awakened and she continued to fight with Yi Chen. Yi Chen smiled indifferently and chose to collide with the opponent with the same amount of strength. Then, he increased his strength every time. It seemed to be endless. But now he began to pour sword intent. Under the selfless realm, Lan Xian'er's battle power reached its peak. Without sword intent, Yi Chen couldn't increase his strength again and again. Lan Xian'er didn't last long after entering the selfless realm for the first time. It was about 15 minutes. During this time, she improved a lot. Part of her potential had been transformed into her own battle power. This was the abnormality of the selfless realm. Every time she used it, she would become stronger. Of course, the selfless realm was entered by forcing one's potential. No one dared to enter the selfless realm too often. Although it was possible to improve by leaps and bounds, it was also possible to kill the goose that laid the golden eggs. It would lead to the exhaustion of one's potential and they would never be able to enter the selfless realm again. Step by step, this was the right way. After all, the potential was limitless, and the human body had its limits. Nearly 4 months passed, and the Heavenly King level sword that Yi Chen had started to forge was finally completed. In these 4 months, he didn't spend much time teaching Lan Xian'er. He came out once a week, and each time was only about an hour. The rest of the time was spent on forging the sword. On this day, the sound of the sword soared into the sky, shattering the clouds. The peerless sword Qi was like a divine dragon, noble and fierce. Underground, Yi Chen held a peerless sword in his hand. This sword was 4 feet and 2 inches long. The body of the sword was like an ancient spring, but it was also suffused with traces of platinum gold. It was hard and soft, and looking down at the sword was like climbing a mountain and looking into an abyss. It was ethereal and deep, as if there were streams of clear spring water flowing down, unfathomable. With a flick of his wrist, the body of the sword was like a spirit snake, constantly changing. It was impossible to know where the tip of the sword would appear. It seemed that any point could be attacked, and there were no blind spots. I'll call you the Dragon Spring Sword. The Dragon Spring Sword was hard and soft at the same time. When it was hard, it was invincible, cutting through everything. When it was soft, it was like a stream of water, piercing through any gap. This sword was a Heavenly King level sword with a combination of metal and water attributes. Chapter 1049. Yi Chen didn't plan to sell the Dragon Spring Sword. His demon slaughtering sword was only a high-quality sword, and because of its special attributes, Yi Chen wasn't confident that he could upgrade it to the Heavenly King stage. Therefore, the Dragon Spring Sword would become a great weapon for him. After all, he cultivated the metal and water profound meanings, so there was no barrier between him and the Dragon Spring Sword. Moreover, this time, Lan Xian'er had brought him 94,000 yuan stones. These were the extra yuan stones after selling the 10 demons battleships. In total, there were 394,000 yuan stones. Adding these 94,000 yuan stones, Yi Chen's own yuan stones had reached 140,000, which wasn't a small amount. There was no need to sell the Dragon Spring Sword. However, if I sell this sword, even if it's not as good as the Time Blade, it should still reach 15,000 yuan stones. The price of a Heavenly King stage sword varied from high to low. The lowest was only 3 to 5,000 yuan, while the highest could easily reach tens of thousands. The price of a Heavenly King stage sword was reflected in 2 aspects: the materials used to forge the sword, and the skills of the person who forged the sword. When the 2 were combined, the difference in price was too great. Yi Chen had already prepared the Dragon Spring Sword scabbard. This scabbard was made entirely of Dragon Spring iron, and was also priceless. It could also conceal the Dragon Spring Sword's sharpness. Sheathing the sword, Yi Chen returned to the ground. The selfless state wasn't easy to grasp. The first time Lan Xian'er had entered the selfless state was when she was forced by Yi Chen. The second time, without Yi Chen by her side, she had spent a whole 3 days to enter the selfless state. Now, a day had passed since she entered the selfless state for the second time, but she hadn't entered the selfless state for the third time. The secret of the selfless state should be fighting spirit. Your fighting spirit isn't strong enough. Think about why you want to become strong. Think about why those who walk before you can laugh in the starry sky. Their fighting spirit is far above yours. Yi Chen's voice poured into Lan Xian'er's ears. Fighting spirit? I, Lan Xian'er, will not lose to anyone. Yi Chen's voice seemed to have a magical power. Lan Xian'er's eyes burned. Immediately, she entered the selfless realm for the third time. Her blue hair grew long, and her pupils became focused silver. All the power in her body condensed in her body. Potential and true essence mixed together, becoming the power of selfless. While Yi Chen was teaching Lan Xian'er, all the geniuses in the universe were working hard. The gods' trial field was about to open in 2 months. If they didn't work hard, they would likely be surpassed by others. In the end, they would fall short and become someone else's stepping stone. As a genius, no one wanted to fail. Pure Grey City, I, Prince Jinghong, will never become someone else's stepping stone. Anatta State, breakthrough. On the vast training field, Jinghong's body emitted a terrifying aura. His long hair grew longer, and his eyes turned silver. It was as if he could see through people's souls. Prince Jinghong had also reached the selfless realm. He was different from Lan Xian'er. Lan Xian'er had been asleep for 5 years, and her strength had stagnated. Although she had Yi Chen's guidance, she hadn't comprehended much. Therefore, after reaching 3 Drive, she couldn't rely on herself to open the selfless realm in a short period of time. On the other hand, Prince Jinghong had been improving all these years. Coupled with his master's cruel training, he had mastered 3 Drive. Opening the selfless realm was a matter of course. Congratulations on entering the selfless realm, Prince. With your strength, you will definitely be ranked in the top 90, or even the top 80. On the side of the training field, the housekeeper of Pure Grace City smiled. It's still not enough. In the remaining 2 months, I have to push the selfless realm to a higher level. Otherwise, I won't be able to stand out. The monsters on the king's list are not that easy to surpass. Prince Jinghong was still not satisfied. If he could improve, so could others. Under his master's cruel training, he could improve by leaps and bounds. His only advantage was his cultivation base, which was at the 5th sky of life and death realm. Even in the king's list, only 30 to 40 people had reached this realm. If he could improve his selfless realm, he had the confidence to enter the top 50, or even higher. On a certain dead star in White Tiger Starfield, a sword artist in blue stood quietly with his eyes closed. He was the flawless swordsman, Zhao Wook. After the battle with the lifeless saber artist Lung Feifen, he had stayed on this dead star for 4 months. Lung Feifen's strength had given him a great shock, and he had obtained great benefits from the duel. In the past 4 months, he had been immersed in the process of breaking through to the selfless realm. Every time he comprehended something, he would enter the selfless realm to digest it. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. An extremely frightening aura burst out. In the past, when Zhao Wook entered the Anatta realm, other than his hair growing longer, his pupils were silvery white. Now, his pupils changed from silvery white to a deep silver. In the next moment, specks of gold appeared in the deep silver, adding an indescribable vitality to his focused eyes and a penetrative power that allowed him to see through the trajectory of the world. Clang! Unsheathing his long sword, Zhao Wook slashed at the dead star below. This slash was natural and untraceable, yet it seemed to be everywhere. Under this slash, there were no blind spots to speak of. Rumble. This dead star was not very big, only 10,000 li in diameter. After suffering Zhao Wook's slash, it actually started disintegrating, leaving only a dark red core. Zhao Wook's slash seemed to have found the main weak point of the dead star and disintegrated it in one fell swoop. This kind of method was many times more difficult than directly shattering the dead star. The former relied on brute force, while the latter relied on one's technique and ability to see through weaknesses to the extreme, easily disintegrating a star. Lung Feifen, thanks to you, I've entered the selfless Heaven's Eye realm, but I still can't see through your previous realm. Zhao Wook was not too excited. He knew that if he challenged Lung Feifen at his current realm, there was no way he could win unless he improved further and pushed the selfless Heaven's Eye to a new height. Letting out a breath, Zhao Wook flew away from this place. He found a star that was twice the size of this one. This star was brimming with vitality and its weak point was not so easy to see. Vermilion birdstar field, on a white star. This star was only several thousand li in diameter. From afar, it was white and looked very cold. However, the temperature on its surface was tens of thousands of degrees, distorting one's vision. If Yi Chen was here, he would definitely recognize that this was a white dwarf star. White dwarfs were a type of star in the late stages of its life. Their density and temperature were very high, and the gravity on their surface reached an exaggerated degree, tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of times that of Earth. Even atoms would be crushed, and no matter could exist on their surface. If a human stood on them, they would instantly be vaporized. However, on this white dwarf star, there was a black-robed youngster. He was unexpectedly able to resist the gravity of the white dwarf star. He continuously punched out, and with each punch, ripples would appear in the void, seeming extremely heavy. Being able to resist the gravity of a white dwarf star was a ridiculous feat even for life and death kings. Although life and death kings were not inanimate objects, they were not completely defenseless. Their bodies contained extreme power, and as long as they were powerful enough, they would be able to resist the powerful gravity. Moreover, the body of life and death kings was extremely tough. Even if they didn't use Jin Yuan and dived into the magma, they would not be injured in the slightest. Most importantly, the martial will of life and death kings was extremely powerful, and could isolate powerful injuries. However, there was still a limit. The surface temperature of a white dwarf star was not much, but the gravity of tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of times that of Earth was too frightening. It was an existence that could crush atoms. Normally, only people at the sixth sky of life and death realm would be able to survive on a white dwarf star. This was because at the sixth sky of life and death realm, one's Jin Yuan would be pure to an unimaginable level. Even the gravity of the white dwarf star would not be able to affect one's body. Of course, the sixth sky of life and death realm would not be able to fly on the white dwarf star, and could only walk or run. This black-robed youngster was only at the fourth sky of life and death realm, but he was able to survive on a white dwarf star. It was indeed a very frightening thing. However, this black-robed youngster was not a normal person. The energy outside his body was a protective chi layer, which meant that he was a body-refining king. Body-refining kings' survival ability was way higher than other life and death kings. Their chi power was completely born from their cells, and they were at the forefront of the human body development. Each of the black-robed youngsters' punches carried 4 layers of overlapping ripples. This was the 4th layer power, which could crush atoms. The 3rd layer power could crush the most basic molecules of matter, while the 4th layer power could crush atoms. Although the enemy was not completely defenseless and could use their protective Jin Yuan and martial will to counteract most of the power, they would still receive a huge amount of damage. The weaker ones would be directly blown into nothingness. It was just like how not everyone could survive on a white dwarf star. Perhaps even the black-robed youngster himself would not be able to withstand this punch, because this was a white dwarf star. Outside, the power of this punch would be even more powerful. Almost there. If I continue, my chi power will be completely used up. After an unknown period of time, the young man in black stopped. He did not have much energy left in his body. Once his energy was depleted, he would be crushed into powder and turned into nothingness. Training on a white dwarf star was a very dangerous thing to do. Walking step by step, the black-robed youngster arrived 10 meters away from where he was. There was a special rope hanging down, which did not break even under the gravity of the white dwarf star. Grabbing onto the rope, the black-robed youngster said softly, "Full speed." In the starry sky outside the white dwarf star, a small Sky King-level battleship maintained its momentum at all times to prevent itself from being pulled by the white dwarf star. As the black-robed youngster spoke, the battleship's momentum increased drastically, flying into the distance. The rope tied to the battleship pulled the black-robed youngster out. Sitting in the hall of the battleship and drinking wine, the black-robed youngster revealed a smile. "I, the Black Destruction King, am here. I wonder if you guys are ready?" Chapter 1050. After entering the selfless realm for the 10th time, Lanziana finally grasped the ability to enter the selfless realm at any time. The selfless realm was indeed unbelievably powerful. Every time she entered the selfless realm, a small portion of her potential would transform into Lanziana's own strength. After 10 times, her strength had increased slightly, but correspondingly, she began to feel tired. The selfless realm is a way to stimulate potential. If you enter the selfless realm consecutively in a short period of time, your potential will be stimulated too much. From now on, unless it's necessary, you cannot enter the selfless realm again. Yi Chen reminded Lanziana. Yes. Lanziana nodded. While you still have time, practice more basic swordsmanship. When you reach the God's trial field, I won't guide you anymore. You need to judge and evolve on your own. For some reason, Yi Chen always felt that Lanziana had improved so fast with his help, and there would be some hidden dangers. Before this, she could not even perform the second drive, but now, she had already entered the selfless realm. Days passed. Lanziana practiced basic swordsmanship on the left side of the yard, while Yi Chen practiced basic swordsmanship on the right. Kai. With a swing of the sword shadows filled the air with blinding white light. Kai. The sword swung out slowly, but it arrived in a flash. Profound of speed. Profound of slowness. I see. There is no absolute fast or slow in this world. Profound of speed is to strengthen the senses and body. Profound of slowness is the complement of profound of speed. Fast and slow were Taishu's illusions. They were a kind of understanding of speed. However, what was fast and what was slow? In the eyes of a normal person, a bird flew very fast. In the eyes of a warrior, a bird flew very slowly. In the eyes of a normal warrior, light was supreme. In Yi Chen's eyes, light was only about twice as fast as him. Everything came from the senses. If one's senses suddenly increased, one would discover that things that were fast would become very slow. One's speed and reaction would also become very slow. However, the senses belonged to oneself. When the senses became stronger, one's body would correspondingly improve. In the end, the position between the two would become the same as before. The slowness profound meaning was a denial of oneself. It was like someone pouring a bucket of cold water on one's arrogance to wake one up. It was the supplement of the swiftness profound meaning. The selfless heavenly eye realm strengthens all senses. It's similar to the fast profound meaning. Perhaps they are the same thing. It's just that the process of entering is different. Soon, there was only 1 month left until the opening of the test field of God. Basically, all the geniuses from the 4 major galaxies had already set off for the test field of God. Young Master Yi, let's go. Compared to a few months ago, Lanziana's essence, energy, and spirit had improved greatly. It was as if she had been reborn. Xin'er isn't going? Yi Chen asked. Lanziana shook her head and said, she said she's not strong enough, so she won't go. All right, let's go then. After all, Lan Xin'er's foundation was a little weak, and she didn't have any fighting spirit. It was hard for her to make a difference. In the life galaxies, there were some astral teleportation formations. These astral teleportation formations were made from an entire planet. They could teleport to another astral teleportation formation. The closest astral teleportation formation to planet Firebird was about 30 light-years away. Riding on the Golden Phantom, the two arrived in about 10 hours. The astral teleportation formation wasn't free. The cost depended on the distance. Since the test field of God was in the region between the 4 major galaxies, the two prepared to teleport to the innermost astral teleportation formation in the Vermilion Birdstar region. The distance between the two was a shocking 1 million light-years. 10,000 light-years was 10 source stones, so 1 million light-years was 1,000 source stones. It was 5 times more expensive than riding on a Heavenly King battleship. Most people wouldn't choose to teleport. After all, source stones were hard to come by. Wait a little longer. We need to gather 100 people before we teleport. The astral teleportation formation's shape was very strange. Below it was a complete planet. Huge tubes of different lengths were inserted into the planet. The shortest was 100 miles, and the longest was 1,000 miles. At the end of the tubes were discs. The discs were the astral teleportation formations. At this moment, at the end of the longest tube, there were a few dozen people standing. At the edge of the disc stood an old man. He was the person in charge of the teleportation. 100 people will be very fast, Lord Yi. Lan Xian said to Yi Chen. There's no rush. Yi Chen nodded. After waiting for about 6 hours, 100 people were gathered. Whoosh! On the astral teleportation formation, a dazzling light exploded. Everyone disappeared without a trace. About 2 hours later, 100 people appeared on the astral teleportation formation in the innermost part of the Vermilion Bird Star Zone. Most of these 100 people were here for business. Only 2 were young people like Yi Chen and Lan Xian. From Lan Xian, Yi Chen learned that these 2 young people were part of the Firebird Star's 10 prodigies. One was ranked 6th, Luo Yinkong, and the other was ranked 8th, Shattered Star Wang Yuanqing. Yuanqing, do you think he will pass the divine trial field? Luo Yinkong quietly asked Yuanqing. Yuanqing shook his head. I don't know. You should know that although we are part of the 10 prodigies, the Vermilion Bird Star Zone alone has more than 1,000 planets with life. The 4 major star zones together have more than 5,000 planets with life. There are tens of thousands of geniuses like us, but only 100 people can enter the Heavenly King ranking. Among these 100 people, perhaps no more than 10 can pass the divine trial field. It's too difficult. That's right. The Heavenly King ranking is full of monsters. It is indeed difficult to stand out. Aside from a few people, the others can't guarantee that they can keep their ranking. Among the tens of thousands of geniuses, no more than 1,000 people were prepared to give it their all. The others were here to experience the divine trial field. Luo Yinkong and Yuanqing were the same. If you wanted to go to the God's trial grounds, you had to go to God's planet first. On God's planet, there was a God's ship there. It was impossible to reach the God's trial grounds from other places because no one knew where it was. As for the God Star, it was a small star with a diameter of only 1,000 miles. The gravity on it was equivalent to 1/10 of a white dwarf star. If one couldn't resist the gravity of the God Star, they would lose the right to enter the divine trial field. In other words, the divine trial field had begun the moment the God Star appeared. The God Star was 70,000 light-years away from the star transfer array. Riding the Golden Phantom, the 2 of them spent half a month before they reached the God Star. From afar, Yi Chen put away the Golden Phantom. The gravity of the God Star was very strong. It could pull a puppet warship over and tear it to pieces. Is this the God Star? After putting away the Golden Phantom, Yi Chen's gaze fell on a small star tens of thousands of miles away. This small star was golden, as if it was made of gold. There were no stars around it, nor were there any twinkling stars. It seemed to be shielded by an invisible power. The little golden star floated there by itself, noble and sacred. Buzz! Not far from Yi Chen, another small Heavenly King warship appeared. It was Luo Yinkong and Yuanqing. Let's go. Yi Chen took the lead and flew toward the God Star. Lan Xian followed closely behind. Success or failure depends on this. Luo Yinkong took a deep breath. Her emotions were fluctuating. Don't worry. As long as we stay on the God Star for 6 hours, we will get a trial spell. With it, the gravity of the God Star will not affect us. Yuanqing reached out his right hand and patted Luo Yinkong's shoulder. Under the pull of the God Star's gravity, Yi Chen and Lan Xian were involuntarily pulled over. The 2 slightly offset most of the gravity to avoid crashing into the God Star. As they got closer, the gravity they felt increased exponentially. Normal life and death realm warriors would be shattered in the process. Pap! Finally, the 2 landed on the God Star. The gravity here is a few million times that of Earth. Yi Chen measured the gravity. Are you okay? Turning around, Yi Chen saw an unnatural blush flash across Lan Xian's face. The gravity here is too strong. I am not used to it yet. Lan Xian had already activated her protective Jin Yuan. Her sword intent also spread out, covering her protective Jin Yuan. Be careful. Stay by my side. Don't get too close to those people. On the God Star, there were tens of thousands of young warriors. Often, some of them would attack others, and their protective Jin Yuan would be shattered. Just as they were about to be crushed to death by the gravity, a golden bubble would suddenly appear on the ground, wrapping around them and sending them out of the God Star. Yeah. Lan Xian'er studied Yi Chen and found that Yi Chen had only activated his protective Jin Yuan. He did not even release his sword intent, as if the gravity on the God Star was nothing to him. How could she know that every single one of Yi Chen's cells contained the rank 5 Immortal sword intent, which was equivalent to a normal rank 6 sword intent? His body's toughness had reached a shocking level. Basically, every single cell was hard to kill, not to mention a body made up of billions of cells. Luo Yinkong and Yuan Qing also came down. Unfortunately, Luo Yinkong only lasted 15 minutes before he could not handle the huge gravity anymore. He was sent out of the God Star by the golden bubble, losing his qualification. Yuan Qing was called the Broken Star King. He could attack and defend at the same time, so he managed to hold on. During this time, hundreds of people lost their qualification. Basically, one person would be sent out of the God Star by the golden bubble every second. The gravity here was really hard to bear. Even if they could hold on for a while, they would not be able to hold on for 6 hours. Hihi, you two can go back now. Not far away, a tall and sturdy young man flew over with bad intentions and threw 2 punches at Yi Chen and Lan Xian'er. Before this, he had already sent a few people away. He liked the feeling of those people running away crazily. You're the one going back. Opening his right hand's 5 fingers, Yi Chen threw out a palm attack. Boom. Like a cannonball, the opponent was sent hundreds of meters away and then sent out of the God Star by the golden bubble. En. Many people looked over. The power of Yi Chen's palm was too shocking. This was the God Star, and the gravity here was horrifying. It could actually send someone hundreds of meters away. Chapter 1051. Interesting. Do any of you know who he is? 100 miles away from Yi Chen, there was a small group of people. Each of them had a golden jade talisman around their necks. With the talismans, they didn't seem to feel the gravity of the God Star. The one who spoke was a tall woman with countless braids. She was taller than most of the people here, around 2 meters tall. However, she didn't look bulky. Her 2-meter height brought out her figure to the extreme. Her breasts were high, her waist slender, her thighs strong, and her butt perky. She was the beautiful Snake Tusha, ranked 48th on the Sky King list. This small group of people were all monsters on the Sky King list. Of course, this was only limited to the Vermilion Bird Star region. After all, this was the God Star. I don't know. I've never seen him before. The bearded young man carrying a giant axe shook his head. Prince Jinghong was also in this small group. He was ranked 94th on the Sky King list. His eyes fell on Yi Chen and Lan Xian'er. He frowned slightly but didn't say anything. This guy sent the Hunter King flying so easily. He's not a simple character. Yes. The Hunter King is a madman on planet Orion. He hunts his prey for fun. With his top hunter's eyesight, he shouldn't be unable to see how strong his prey is. How strange. No, the Hunter King went there because he was lured there. Someone was secretly casting an illusion. At that moment, I felt the aura of an illusion, but the opponent's illusion skills were far above mine. I couldn't tell who cast the illusion. But if I think about it, I understand. In the younger generation of the Vermilion Bird Star region, there's only one person who can surpass me in illusion. On the God Star, there were crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Other than the monsters on the Sky King list, there were some who were very strong. For example, the person who came to this conclusion was an amazing person. He was the second king of illusion in the younger generation of the Vermilion Bird Star region. Isn't that? The people next to Sai Suo were about to look at the small group of people. Don't do anything stupid. His illusions have already reached the realm of being able to be released from his heart. The moment you look over, his illusions will follow your gaze back. Who knows, It might make you do the same thing as the Hunter King. Saisuo reminded them. Oh, I almost forgot. That was close. You illusionists are too sick. I'd rather be defeated cleanly than meet you. The few of them were secretly afraid. Siso smiled and thought to himself, the pursuit of an illusionist is to replace the truth with an illusion. They use their own will to change everything that they can feel, and even everything that they can't feel. This is where the joy of an illusionist lies. It's a pity that too few people choose the path of an illusionist. The evil spirit race is a good target. Hey, Ji Chengyu, aren't you a little too bored? That guy isn't someone you can toy with. A slender and well-proportioned arm wrapped around the shoulders of the evil-looking young man. The owner of the arm was very delicate, but a little cynical, as if he didn't care about anything. He was the cheerful type, and his eyes were always squinting. The joy of illusions lies in doing as one pleases. You won't understand. The young man wasn't used to having his shoulder held, so he took a step to the right. Don't be so cold. Mr. Yi, the one who attacked us just now was the Hunter King of planet Orion, Lanziana said to Yi Chen. Yi Chen shook his head. No, he wasn't the one who attacked us. It wasn't him? Then who was it? Lanziana didn't understand. It won't do you any good if you know. Illusions were cast from the heart. Once someone paid attention to them, they would be able to sense it. It was better for Lanziana not to know, but she hoped that the other party would stop now. As for what had happened earlier, she would just treat it as the other party's test. More and more people were eliminated. From around 40,000 people, it was reduced to less than 15,000 people. 6 hours later, Yi Chen and Lanziana each obtained a jade talisman. Lanziana looked down at the jade talisman around her neck and exclaimed, "How magical. A single trial talisman can offset all the gravity. Soul power, sword intent, quintessential essence, all methods had been tested." Yi Chen didn't find anything special about the trial talisman. It seemed to be just an ordinary jade talisman. Is this the power of a true god? Success. I've finally succeeded. Not far away, Broken Star King Yuanqing's face revealed a joyous expression. For those powerful geniuses, the purpose of participating in the god test field was to distinguish themselves and ultimately pass. However, for Yuanqing and the majority of the others, being able to see the god test field was already enough to satisfy them. As geniuses, if they couldn't see the god test field in their lifetime, they would undoubtedly regret it for the rest of their lives. Firebird Planet also had Young Master Kang Yu and Young Master Firebird. Although Young Master Kang Yu couldn't even withstand one move from Lung Feifen, that was because Lung Feifen was too powerful, not because Young Master Kang Yu was weak. Moreover, after 8 months of training, Young Master Kang Yu's strength was clearly much stronger than when he had challenged Lung Feifen. It wouldn't be strange for him to last 6 hours. The Firebird Prince was able to endure for 6 hours mainly because his cultivation base had increased from peak 3rd Sky of Life and Death Realm to 4th Sky of Life and Death Realm. Even so, he had suffered a lot. His whole body was soaked in sweat, and he did not have much Shen Yuan left. If he were to go on for another hour, he would definitely be eliminated. After all, resisting gravity had nothing to do with offensive power. Of these two, one had arrived earlier than Yi Chen and Lanziana, and the other had arrived later. As for Lanziana, apart from the initial difficulty, she was relatively relaxed. After all, she was still at the 4th layer. If she hadn't been asleep for 5 years, she would have been even more powerful. Including Yi Chen, Firebird Star had a total of 6 people who had passed the initial trial and obtained the trial talisman. How do you feel? Giving up on studying the trial talisman, Yi Chen asked Lanziana. I feel like my body has woken up. It's a feeling of contentment. Lanziana said slowly. That's good. After sleeping for 5 years, you received my training as soon as you woke up, and your strength advanced by leaps and bounds. It felt a bit unreal, but the gravity of the God Star has completely eliminated this feeling. Yi Chen was very clear about Lanziana's mental state. It seems so. Lanziana nodded. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. In the distant pitch-black sky, a huge golden shadow suddenly appeared. This golden shadow was much larger than the god star. It seemed slow, but it was actually moving at an extremely fast speed. The boring time is finally over. A few hundred meters to the north of the small group of people, a black-clothed young man was lying on the ground. His trial talisman was not on his body. Instead, it was placed a meter away. In other words, he was under the pressure of the god's star and was resting on the ground. This level of endurance could only be described as shocking. Slowly climbing up, the black-robed youngster picked up the trial talisman and revealed a smile. "It's the god ship," someone exclaimed. Yi Chen and Lan Xiana looked over. The golden shadow in the pitch-black sky was a huge star-like golden battleship, the same color as the god star. What was surprising was that the sails of the golden battleship were not made of cloth, but a kind of solid gold-like material. Rumble. Soon, the god ship connected with the god star. Compared to the god ship, the god star was like a small dock, not even 1/10 the size of the former. A huge ladder extended to the god star. "Let's go." Everyone followed the ladder and boarded the god ship. "Let's go as well." Yi Chen walked in the front, and Lan Xiana followed beside him. How nostalgic. I can't even remember what happened in the god trial field. The black-robed youngster walked at the back alone. After everyone boarded the ship, the ladder was put away. The ship of God turned around and headed back to where it came from. Its speed became faster and faster, and it became more and more terrifying. In the end, it seemed to have transcended time and space, wandering at the edge of time and space. At the same time, the geniuses of Azure Dragon Starfield, White Tiger Starfield, and Black Tortoise Starfield had all boarded the god ship, heading toward an unknown place. Between the 4 great starfields was an unknown place, and also a forbidden zone. Ninth Sky of Life and Death Realm experts might be able to roam around in the periphery, but once they got too close to the center or the core, they would disappear completely. Some speculated that they might be trapped in the space-time turbulence, never to come out. The mighty power of true gods could only be seen in the 4 great starfields. After an unknown amount of time, the god ship reached the shore, and the ladder was lowered. Standing on the god ship, nobody could see anything, but stepping down the ladder and stepping on the solid ground, they couldn't help but exclaim. This was an incomparably huge continent. This continent was completely barren, and at the center of the continent was a huge golden gate of unknown height. Above the gate were 3 words, God Trial Field. Is this the God's Trial Field? Just by looking at it, I can tell that it's not something a human can build. This is the power of a true God. Only a true God could build such a shocking golden door. Someone murmured. Creak. The golden gate opened, and a dazzling golden light spread out, enveloping everyone. In the next moment, they felt their bodies lighten, and then they lost consciousness. In the other 3 directions, there were also 3 continents and 3 golden gates. The geniuses of Azure Dragon Starfield, White Tiger Starfield, and Black Tortoise Starfield were all enveloped by the golden light and sent into the golden gates. The place where Yi Chen appeared was a misty forest. There was no one around him, as if the golden light had purposely separated them, letting them move on their own. Buzz. Suddenly, the trial rune on Yi Chen's chest emitted a bright light. Shortly after, a several meters wide light screen appeared in front of Yi Chen. On the light screen were numerous golden dots, and Yi Chen's position was the first golden dot. You want me to go to the next golden dot? The light screen dispersed, and Yi Chen took a step forward, entering the dense fog. Chapter 1052. The misty forest was filled with danger. Screams would occasionally break the silence, rising and falling. Pu. Broken Star Wang Yuanqing had just entered the mist when he was attacked by wave after wave of arrows. The mist of the god's trial field was no ordinary mist. It had the powerful ability to isolate soul strength. Here, one could only rely on the 6 senses to sense danger, such as sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and the 6th sense, intuition. Everyone had 6 senses, but some were strong and some were weak. After dodging the countless arrows, Yuanqing didn't even have time to catch his breath. Suddenly, in front and behind him, 2 enormous steel walls covered in spikes came flying at him. Not good. Yuan Qing was shocked. The entire God's trial field was filled with a viscous, formless energy that caused his speed to greatly decrease. These 2 steel walls were incomparably fast, surpassing his speed. There was no way he could dodge them. Since he couldn't dodge, he could only go all out. Yuan Qing's weapons were 2 large hammers, one on the left and one on the right. Yuan Qing used all his strength to smash at the steel walls. The sound of metal twisting rang out. The steel walls were pushed back by Yuan Qing. Pu. Abruptly, a spear fell from the sky, piercing through Yuan Qing's head and nailing him to the ground. Damn! Outside the golden door, Yuan Qing's figure appeared. The trial talisman on his chest suddenly shattered. Could it be that I, the Firebird Prince, can't even pass the first stage? A fiery red light flashed. The Firebird Prince jumped up and down, looking extremely wretched. Behind him were countless golden dots of light. These golden dots of light were hornets that seemed to be made of gold. They were as big as fists, and their wings flapped. They were like flying swords cutting through the air, incomparably sharp. The Firebird Prince tried to attack the hornets, but found that even with his full strength, he could only kill a few. The remaining hornets were enough to sting him to death. In the end, the Firebird Prince was stung by a hornet. His body went numb, and in the next instant, countless hornets pounced on him. Lan Xian'er also encountered hundreds of golden wasps, but she was lucky. These wasps had a special structure, and if she used a pure killing move, she could only kill 7 or 8 at a time. But if she used second drive, she could kill more than 20, and if she used third drive, she could kill a large group. In other words, these golden hornets were used to test the extent of their control over their strength, and the most direct manifestation of their control over their strength was how many bursts they had. Generally speaking, if one had attained the second drive and was slightly stronger, they would be able to contend against the golden hornets without being defeated in a single clash. Of course, defeating the golden hornets didn't mean they were out of danger. There were traps everywhere in the dense fog forest, and the golden hornets were released from one of them. Kachak! The branch under her feet broke, and Lan Xian'er was alarmed. She bent down subconsciously, and with a poochy sound, a snow-white light brushed past her back. That cold sharpness made her feel cold all over. Before she could take a breath, Lan Xian'er jumped up. Below her, the 2 steel walls were locked together without a single crack. However, the real danger had just arrived. From all directions, countless golden arrows shot over. The golden arrows had spiral patterns on their tips. Once hit, even her protective Jin Yuan wouldn't be able to withstand it. Everything has its flaws. As long as you can find their blind spots, you will be able to get twice the result with half the effort. Yi Chen's words were still fresh in her memory. Taking a deep breath, the Jin Yuan in Lan Xian'er's body split. Most of it gathered in her arms, and the rest went to her eyes. In her vision, the arrows slowed down a bit. It looked like they were all shooting at her at the same time, but there were actually different directions. Only about half of them could threaten her, and that was if she didn't move. Break for me. With a flash of sword light, Lan Xian'er slashed out 5 times. Ding 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 ding. Suddenly, the sound of metal colliding filled the air. Lan Xian'er's 5 swords changed the trajectory of the 5 golden arrows, causing them to hit the other golden arrows. Just like that, it was like dominoes, creating a chain reaction that caused the seemingly unsolvable rain of arrows to collapse on itself. Shio. However, just as Lan Xian'er let out a breath, a golden arrow passed through a large amount of arrow fragments and pierced through Lan Xian'er's protective Jin Yuan. In the end, Lan Xian'er was nailed to the tree. Fortunately, there were no more traps. Pulling out the golden arrow, Lan Xian'er still had lingering fear. She didn't think that the first trial of the God's trial field would be so abnormal. The traps were one after another, not giving people a chance to catch their breath. If there had been another wave of attacks, she wouldn't even have had the time to open the Anatta state. Of course, this was also because she had been asleep for 5 years and hadn't fought anyone for 5 years. After all, no matter how high her strength increased, she still needed a large amount of battle experience. Now is not the time to open the anatta state. If I can't even pass the first trial, it proves that I'm just SOSO. Lan Xian gave up on entering the anatta state and continued forward. There were too many people who were stopped in the misty forest. Some were turned into beehives by the arrow rain, some were stung to death by the golden hornets like Prince Firebird, and some were crushed into a bloody pulp by the steel walls. There were as many ways to die as there were traps in the misty forest. Some of the ways to die were strange and unheard of. There were about 15,000 geniuses from the Vermilion Birdstar region who had come to the gods' trial field. However, in this short period of time, at least half of them had died. Some geniuses who thought that they were very powerful had also died. They might be able to beat most of the geniuses in a one-on-one battle, but in the misty forest, survival was the test. The dead people appeared outside the Golden Gate one after another, the trial talismans on their chests shattered. Damn, even I, the loose-hand king, couldn't pass the first trial. It's too hard. I couldn't even react in time. I guess at least 2/3 of the people will be eliminated. No wonder people say that it's enough to see the gods' trial field. Don't expect to pass the first trial. Outside the Golden Gate, more and more people gathered. Everyone was discussing in low spirits. For most of the people, the first challenge was indeed very difficult. Even if they tried their best, they would still be eliminated. The rest of the people might also be eliminated if they were not careful enough. However, for people at Yi Chen's level, the first challenge would only help them to warm up their muscles and bones. It was just an appetizer. His figure was like a ghost. Wave after wave of arrows passed through the illusions left behind by Yi Chen, unable to harm him in the slightest. Before the two steel walls could even get close, a corner was cut off. The flying chains were sent flying, entangling a large metal ball that swung over like a pendulum. Due to the entanglement of the chains, the large metal ball changed its trajectory and smashed down the golden iron man that was released from the mechanism. The sound of metal clanging spread out like a wave, flattening everything around it. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Yi Chen had traversed the entire misty forest and arrived before a racetrack. This racetrack was 1,000 meters wide and long, with no end in sight. The moment Yi Chen came out, 7 or 8 people dashed out at the same time. They were the black-robed young man, the frivolous handsome young man, the saber-wielder with a cross scar on his cheek, the 2-meter-tall beauty with her hair tied up in braids, the bearded young man, the devilishly handsome young man, and the graceful prince. In the next instant, another dozen people dashed out. Most of them were geniuses on the Heavenly King list, but of course, there were some who weren't. Chem. The black-robed young man and the handsome young man sized up Yi Chen. They didn't expect him to be so fast, passing through the misty forest in an instant, even though they didn't go all out. In front of the racetrack, there was a wooden board. There were no rules written on it, only rewards. The first to reach the finish line would be rewarded with 10 shunbi, the second would be rewarded with 5, and the third would be rewarded with 2. What's shunbi? The handsome young man was puzzled. Those who pass the gods' trial field will be qualified to enter the paradise of gods. It's said that shunbi is the currency of the paradise of gods. In any case, it's good stuff. The black-robed young man was very confident in himself. He didn't think that the first place would fall to anyone else, so there was no harm in telling them. The currency of the paradise of gods. Looks like the more the better. The 2-meter-tall Du Sha licked her red lips. The black-robed young man chuckled, you better be mentally prepared. Anything that involves shunbi will be very difficult. It won't be easy to get shunbi. It's just a racetrack. How hard can it be? More and more people arrived. Some geniuses who were quite accomplished in speed didn't care. Since there was a racetrack, it naturally had to be fair. They needed to wait for everyone to arrive before starting. About an hour later, everyone had arrived. Of the 15,000 people who passed through the misty forest, only 4,000 or so had passed. The elimination rate was more than 70%. Prince Yi. Lan Xian came to Yi Chen's side. This race track isn't that simple. It might not be a test of speed. Speed wasn't the most important factor in judging a genius, even though being slow wasn't good either. After everyone had arrived, the light screen in front of the race track opened. Shoo! Almost in an instant, dozens of figures rushed out. Damn, there's gravity. We can't use Jin Yuan. How is this possible? Of those who rushed out, more than half of them fell to the ground in an incomparably sorry state. The genius who rushed out the fastest was clearly the type who was fast in speed but weak in other aspects. His chin was stuck to the ground as he slid out several thousand meters. His body was badly mangled and he was in an extremely miserable state. A bunch of idiots. The black-robed young man slowly walked on the track and closed his eyes. I can't use Jin Yuan or any other energy. The gravity is 1/20th of the god's star. It really isn't that simple. Opening his eyes, the black-robed young man started running. Close to 200,000 times the Earth's gravity. For most people, this is probably an extreme test. Yi Chen looked at the endless race track and shook his head. Chapter 1053. More than 4,000 people were all running on the track. Just like a marathon, no one increased their speed. Those who could make it here were all geniuses among geniuses. Before understanding the rules, they might have been impulsive, but after understanding the rules, it would be hard for them to be impulsive. Most importantly, everyone wanted to win. Some geniuses were self-aware and thought that their strength was inferior to others, but when it came to stamina, they wouldn't admit defeat. Humph. So what if you're on the Heavenly King list? Who knows how long this track will be? I don't believe your stamina is also higher than ours. Haha, I'm a body refiner king. Stamina is my strong point. Is that so? Don't you know that in terms of stamina, we demonic beasts are the best? A young man laid down and turned into a 7-meter-long demonic dog. His powerful muscles and streamlined body made him run full of power and beauty. 2 hours passed. 6 hours passed. Under the enormous gravity and the inability to use Jin Yuan, everyone ran for 12 hours. Of course, this amount of time wasn't enough to make them tired. The stamina of life and death kings could be described as abnormal. Starting from astral reaching realm, humans and demonic beasts would all evolve. For example, before astral reaching realm, the lifespan of humans was only a bit longer than ordinary people, still roughly at the level of ordinary people. At astral reaching realm, one could live for 200 years, 500 years at Sea of Soul realm, and 100,000 years at life and death realm. 3 evolutions, each more exaggerated than the last. Especially the third evolution, it was no longer an ordinary evolution, but an evolution of the origin. It was as huge as the difference between a unicellular organism and a human. You work hard. I'm going to speed up. Yi Chen and Lan Xiana were in the middle of the team. There were roughly 2,000 people ahead and another 2,000 behind. This was a very disadvantageous position. Under the soul power perception, the group at the front was already several tens of thousands of li away. If they wanted to fight for the top 3, they couldn't be left behind too much. Otherwise, they wouldn't even have time to catch up. Yeah. Lan Xiana nodded. Swish. Exerting his strength through his feet, Yi Chen's whole body turned into a phantom as he shot out, overtaking dozens of people within a second. What was even more frightening was that when he ran, he did not make any sound at all, just like a cat. What kind of speed is this? The person who was overtaken took a while to react. About an hour later, Yi Chen arrived at the very front. There were only 30 to 40 people left in front of him. However, Yi Chen did not slow down. Instead, he sped up slightly. Who is this guy? Who cares what kind of divine being he is? Since he dares to surpass us, then we'll just let him be at the bottom. To be able to run at the front, how could their strength be simple? At the very least, they would be in the top 100 of the Vermilion bird star field. A ferocious tiger charged at Yi Chen the moment he and Yi Chen were shoulder to shoulder. Patter. Yi Chen didn't even look at it. With a casual wave of his arm, the tiger's bones were all shattered, and it was sent flying. When it landed on the ground, it completely disappeared from the track, losing the right to participate in the trial by fire. Hiss. The few people who were just about to make a move sucked in a breath of cold air. The one who made a move was the demon race genius Iron Tiger King, ranked 99th on the Heavenly King list. Not to mention strength, just in terms of physical strength, there were not many who could surpass him. Yet, he was actually unable to withstand Yi Chen's arm strike. What kind of terrifying strength was this? You'd better not do anything stupid. Otherwise, all of you will be eliminated. Yi Chen's voice had a trace of coldness to it. After a few breaths, Yi Chen had left them far behind. This guy is a monster that can't be provoked. The Iron Tiger King is really unlucky. I don't understand why he didn't stay at the front from the start. Otherwise, the Iron Tiger King wouldn't have provoked him. Monsters think differently from us. Who knows? Gradually, there were only 5 people left in front of Yi Chen. They were all black-clothed youths, a saber wielder with a cross-shaped scar on his cheek, a 2-meter-tall woman with a head full of braids, a winged black panther, and a bearded young man carrying a giant axe. These 5 people didn't mean that they were the strongest in the group. It could only be said that their speed, endurance, and stamina surpassed ordinary people. At the very least, some of the people Yi Chen overtook were extremely dangerous people, such as the handsome young man with a strange demeanor. Hehe, there's a new member. The beautiful snake lady, Medusa, looked over. Quite powerful. I wonder how long he can last. The bearded young man said lightly. In a situation where they didn't know how long the track was, no one dared to increase their speed to the limit. Everyone would only maintain their speed at the limit that they could accept. For example, 30%, 40%, or even 50%. Very few people exceeded 50%. After all, the faster the speed, the faster the stamina would be consumed. It was not a wise move. I bet he can last more than 2 days. Among the 5, the black-clothed young man didn't bother to speak. The saber wielder was very cold. The winged black panther also didn't like to talk. Therefore, only Medusa and the bearded young man spoke. This young man was ranked 42nd on the king list. People called him Great Axe Xiao Erlang. 2 days later. I won. Medusa giggled. I didn't bet with you. Xiao Erlang rolled his eyes. 1 week later. I can't run anymore. How long is this damn track? Who knows? Anyway, in these 10 days, just from what I saw, more than 30 people were eliminated. What a tragedy. In such a harsh environment, everyone could last 1 or 2 days. But after 10 days, many people were exhausted and lost the right to continue. 20 days later, including the ones before, was an entire month. Forget it, I'm not running anymore. If I keep running, I'll die of exhaustion. After a month of running, more than 90% of the participants had collapsed. The number of people still running was less than 300. The terror of the God trial field was far beyond their imagination. Even Yi Chen didn't expect that the track would be so long, as if there was no end. I can't hold on anymore. Lan Xian was soaked in sweat. Her vision was blurry. She didn't think she could finish the entire track, but until the last moment, she wouldn't allow herself to fall. At this point, it's no longer a test of endurance and stamina. It's more of a test of will. Turning his head, the vertical eye between his brows opened. Yi Chen saw Lan Xian. Is this guy a monster? Right now, Du Shuo was exhausted to death. Seeing that Yi Chen did not have a trace of fatigue, she was completely convinced. Another 2 days passed. This was the 33rd day. Lan Xian walked as if she was sleepwalking. Her eyes had lost focus, and her face was frighteningly pale. She had already lost consciousness. The only thing that kept her going was her unyielding will. On the track, a person was quickly catching up to the people in front of him. It was a playful young man, but his eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Hey, Du Shuo, I've caught up to you. How come I'm so far behind? Du Shuo turned her head and said with a bitter smile, you finally have some fighting spirit. The handsome young man was ranked 12th on the Heavenly King list. People called him Ghost Genius Lu Wanxiu. His talent was publicly recognized. If he had a bit of fighting spirit, it would be easy for him to rank in the top 10. I can't help it. I'm a person who can't bring up fighting spirit. But the length of the track is beyond imagination. I'm interested. Lu Wenxiu grinned. The 4 people in front are not easy to surpass. I wish you a safe journey. Du Shuo waved her hand. She didn't even have the strength to speak at this moment. Sending the guy away was the right thing to do. Then I'll go first. His figure flickered as Lu Wenxiu's speed soared. Truly a monster among monsters. Du Shuo was speechless. At noon, Lu Wenxiu finally caught up to the 4 people in front. Ghost genius, you've finally caught up. Qiao Erlang greeted. I've kept you waiting. Lu Wenxiu's face was neither red nor out of breath. This guy has caught up. Lu Wenxiu's arrival attracted the attention of Blade Man and Black Panther. Ghost genius Lu Wenxiu was a famous name in the other 3 great starfields. Many ninth-layer life and death experts had praised him, saying that his talent was one of the strongest in the 4 great starfields. There were no more than 3 who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Yi Chen was also paying attention to Lu Wenxiu. This guy's physical strength was not necessarily stronger than others, but his utilization of strength had reached a frightening level. No matter how fast his speed was, he was always in the most effortless state. There was also a sun in the God trial field. The dazzling sunlight shone on everyone's body. Suddenly, a strand of glaring golden radiance flickered. We've reached the finish line. That's the triumphal arch, Qiao Erlang said. The end of the track was still nowhere to be seen, but everyone could see a huge golden triumphal arch. It was unknown how far this arch was from where they were, but they could see it clearly. I'm going to speed up. See you guys. The winged Black Panther's speed soared again and again. In the blink of an eye, it had increased by several times, leaving the 4 several hundred li behind. However, the 4 caught up again in the next moment. What a joke. The first place is mine. The black-robed youngster sneered and continued to increase his speed. That's not necessarily true. Blade Man chased closely. I, Qiao Erlang, still have 30% of my physical strength. Qiao Erlang was ranked 42nd on the Heavenly King ranking, but in terms of physical strength, he was at least in the top 10. Right now, we're not competing in physical strength, but explosive power. Lu Wenxiu's hair was blown backward. His narrowed eyes opened slightly, and a cold light flashed in them. At this moment, his true appearance was slightly revealed. You guys really are a bit hard to deal with. In that case, I'll leave you all in the dust. The black-robed youngster took a deep breath and leaned forward. With a rumble, he shot forward like a bolt of black lightning, his explosive power breaking the ground. Damn! The Black Panther even used its wings, but it was still left further and further behind by the black-robed youngster. Just how monstrous are these people? Hundreds of thousands of li away, Du Shuo's soul power sensed the 5 people in front of her. Other than dumbfounded, she had no words to describe them. The black-robed youngster left a trail of dust in his wake. The 4 people behind him were getting further and further away. 10 Shunbi for the first place, I can't let him go. Thinking of 10 Shunbi, Yi Chen's eyes flashed with a cold light. Under the gazes of the 3, Yi Chen's speed rose to the limit. Because of his speed, his afterimages were still left behind. Chapter 1054. Impossible. How can he still increase his speed at this stage? The young man's pupils shrunk. Before this, they had already increased their speed twice. What an incredible figure. His control of power, speed, explosiveness, and stamina are all top-notch. No matter how bad he is in other aspects, he won't be that bad. Yi Chen's sudden burst of speed shocked Lu Wenxiu, Qiao Erlang, and the others. Third place is worth 2 Shunbi. I must get it. The Black Panther's body quickly squirmed and finally turned into a leopard man. Behind him, a pair of black wings flapped at an astonishing frequency. Due to the huge gravity on the runway, the running speed was faster than the flying speed. Therefore, this pair of wings did not allow the leopard man to fly. Instead, it allowed him to take every step that was equivalent to 10 steps for others. It was like an air current driver. Then let's have a competition. Below Lu Wenxiu's knees, Her muscles twisted into strands like highly elastic springs. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Lu Wenxiu's speed increased rapidly, leaving behind after images one after another. Forget it. I, Qiao Erlang, have stamina, but my speed is too slow. Qiao Erlang gave up on the top 3. Until the last moment, no one knows what the result will be. The blade artist wasn't discouraged at all. He burst out with speed from time to time, but soon slowed down again. Bailey Hun, sometimes you should relax and maintain your peak fighting spirit. But, you have to pay a high price. Who knows, you might have come a long way. Qiao Erlang warned. Bailey Hun, ranked 10th on the Heaven King ranking, called Soul Slasher. I'm afraid that I won't be able to use Soul Slasher once I relax. Blade artist Bailey Hun said indifferently. Qiao Erlang sighed. It was really hard to have Lung Feifen as a target. Who didn't know that guy had a strong potential to reach the peak? In theory, the potential of the ghost genius Lu Wenxiu was not inferior to Lung Feifen. However, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth, because Lung Feifen had a strong enterprising spirit, while Lu Wenxiu only had fighting spirit for things she was interested in, and other things were half-hearted. I'm a body refiner king, and my control of power has reached the 4th layer. Why can't I shake him off? The young man in black glanced at Yi Chen coldly. What a terrifying fellow. Yi Chen had already raised his speed to the maximum, but from time to time, he would still be overtaken by his opponent. The first was Yi Chen and the black-clothed youth. The two of them had already left the second group behind by tens of thousands of li. The second group was Lu Wenxiu and the leopard man. The two of them had also left the third group behind by 50 to 60,000 li. The third group was Qiao Erlang and Bai Lihuan. Basically, the top 3 had nothing to do with them. However, this was not because they were not fast enough or did not have enough explosive power. They had left Du Shuo behind by more than 1 million li, and left the people behind her behind by more than 10 million li. There's still about 1 million li to go. If there was no gravity here and they didn't need to restore their true essence, then 1 million miles would only take them several breaths of time. But here, they would need to spend thousands of times that amount of time. Heavy breathing sounds came out from Yi Chen and the black-clothed youth's nostrils. At this time, the two of them had already used up all of their stamina and were competing in speed. Increasing their speed unceasingly, the two of them could only increase their speed slightly. It was like how no matter how hard an ordinary person tried, they could only increase their speed by a little bit. Although the two's current speed was countless times faster than ordinary people, right now, they were just like ordinary people. But this was already enough. Even if they were 1/100th of a meter faster than their opponent, it would still be a victory. Don't waste your energy. If you maintain your peak speed, every breath you take will consume tens of times, or even hundreds of times more energy than before. Even the most energy-conserving state will be removed. However, I'm different. Maintaining my peak speed for a long time is a common occurrence for me. The black-clothed youth said indifferently. Indeed, you're a body refiner king. You have the advantage in this aspect. But, I don't think that I can't last a few 100,000 li at this time. There were only 50 to 60,000 li left to go. Is that so? It seems like you're very confident in yourself. I wonder how much stamina you have left after being attacked. I advise you not to do so. Moreover, even if you do, it's meaningless. Yi Chen's eyes turned cold. Then, I'd like to see where your confidence comes from. The black-clothed youth approached Yi Chen while maintaining his high speed. His left hand formed a fist and punched toward Yi Chen's head. Visible to the naked eye, 4 overlapping ripples burst out. 4th layer. You'll know now. Opening his right hand's 5 fingers, Yi Chen met the attack with a palm. Rumble. Obviously, there was no Jin Yuan or Qi power, but the two's exchange was still like a landslide. Violent Qi flow revolved around the two of them. 4th layer. The two were blown away by the explosive force and landed on the edge of the track. The moment they landed, they lowered their bodies slightly to dissipate the force and continued running at high speed. The pause was no more than a breath's time. Moving his left hand's 5 fingers, the black-clothed youth said word by word. Yi Chen's palm clearly contained the 4 stacks. Of course, things were far from that simple. If it was only the 4 stacks, no one would be able to defeat a body refinement king. However, the opponent's palm didn't rely on palm power alone. Instead, it relied on the power of his fingers. Each finger contained the 4 stacks, and 5 fingers represented 5 waves of 4 stacks. When the 5 waves of 4 stacks converged together, the resulting power would tear apart and destroy everything. Worthy of being a body refiner king. Yi Chen's right hand was slightly numb as the blood and qi in his arm flowed backward. The two are fighting. Lu Wenxiu's brows raised. To be able to fight evenly with Black Destruction King, how much power does that palm contain? The leopard man exclaimed. Lu Wenxiu said, it seems like he has also reached the 4th layer realm. Moreover, it's not an ordinary 4th layer. Black Destruction King has met his match. Black Destruction King Zhu Jian was ranked 3rd on the Heavenly King list, a body refiner king. He was one of the few experts who had participated in the trial of God twice. Tooth-bursting fists. Black Destruction King Zhu Jian attacked again. This time, it wasn't just 4th layer, but a powerful fist art with 4th layer as its foundation. It was just like Yi Chen's 5 elements sword palm. Clang. Yi Chen unsheathed his demon-slaughtering sword. As a sword artist, sword arts were his forte. The two's battle was so intense that their speed gradually slowed down. Lu Wenxiu and the leopard man gradually caught up. The more intense their battle is, the better. We can just sit back and reap the benefits. The leopard man grinned. Their leopard race could be said to be unparalleled in the world, but it was easy for them to get tired. With his ability, he could only maintain it for 30 breaths. If he wasn't left behind by the 2 in front of him by 30 breaths, then he had a 70% chance of surpassing them and obtaining 1st place. Don't be delusional. Do you think they're hot-headed people? Lu Wenxiu shook her head. That's not necessarily true. There can only be one first, and with their similar speed, it's possible for either of them to obtain 1st place. Here comes the problem. Black Destruction King is determined to obtain 1st place, and he won't allow himself to fail. He will definitely choose to exhaust his opponent's stamina. As for me, I only need to maintain my current distance to make them lower their guard, unless you remind them. The leopard man looked at Lu Wenxiu. Don't worry, I don't like an unchanging competition. You can try. Of course, don't think that I, Lu Wenxiu, have given up on the competition. That would be the best. It would be meaningful to obtain 1st place from Black Destruction King Zhu Jian and Ghost Genius Lu Wenxiu. Clang, clang, clang. The battle ahead had already reached its climax. Black Destruction King Zhu Jian's fist arts were tyrannical and unrivaled. On the other hand, Yi Chen's sword arts were sharp enough to cut through everything. Even Zhu Jian's fist arts couldn't gain an advantage in front of him. Autumn water. The moonlight shattered, making people feel as if they were in a dream. Swish. Blood splashed out from Zhu Jian's face. If he hadn't tilted his head slightly at the critical moment, this sword would have cut his head in 2. After losing his strength, his body's defense was only 10 times stronger than other life and death kings of the same realm. It was impossible for him to block Yi Chen's sword. Swish. Zhu Jian pulled back, his eyes as cold as blades. In terms of physical strength and defense, body refinement kings indeed had the upper hand. However, it was precisely because they were body refinement kings that their moves were straightforward and didn't have too many variations. For them, as long as they had enough speed and power, it was enough. There was no need for them to spend time on variations, which would instead lead them down the wrong path. However, after losing their strength, their speed and power were no longer overwhelming. Of course, this didn't mean that body refinement kings were at a disadvantage after losing their strength. On the contrary, body refinement kings still had the upper hand. Unfortunately, Zhu Jian's opponent was Yi Chen. After several exchanges, Yi Chen soon saw through Zhu Jian's blind spot. This guy is not simple. He is definitely not simple. Zhu Jian's expression turned serious. Although he was very confident in his speed and physical strength, he wouldn't lose his confidence if someone really took the 1st place. After all, geniuses like them still relied on their battle prowess. However, just now, Yi Chen had actually seen through his blind spot. This kind of eyesight wasn't something an ordinary person could possess. Following this, Zhu Jian gave up on attacking Yi Chen. In a situation where he couldn't use his strength, he didn't have much chance of winning. Yi Chen was happy to see this. He indeed didn't have much strength left. Although that leopard man was hiding very well, Yi Chen could still sense a covetous aura from him. The destination was approaching, but the four of them were still able to increase their speed. When they were only 10,000 li away from the destination, Zhu Jian's speed once again increased by 10%. However, Yi Chen's burst of speed was even faster than his. What was even more shocking was that the leopard man was constantly closing the distance. With his speed, it was very likely that he would be able to stand side by side with Yi Chen and Black Destruction King at the final moment. Very soon, they arrived at the triumphal arch. 3 figures flashed past, arriving almost at the same time. Chapter 1055. TCH, just a little bit more. The leopard man was extremely unwilling. Huff. Zhu Jian panted heavily as his shoulders heaved up and down. In front of him was Yi Chen's back. In that split second, the three seemed to have reached the finish line at the same time. But in reality, Yi Chen was half a body's length faster than him, and he was half a body's length faster than the Leopard King. In other words, Yi Chen was first, he was second, and the Leopard King was third. Yi Chen's panting was much louder than Zhu Jian's. Since becoming a life and death king, this was the first time he had experienced a lack of oxygen in his brain. There was a hint of blood in his throat. However, this race had also made his blood boil. Every cell in his body was cheering. Hey! What's going on? I'm at the finish line. It teleported me to the finish line in an instant. Could it be the rules of the track? Haha, great. I thought I would be eliminated. The moment Yi Chen and the other two reached the finish line, everyone else on the track was teleported over, including the unconscious Lan Xian. Lu Wenxiu rubbed her chin, so that's how it is. When 3 people reach the finish line, those who are not eliminated will pass. This way, not too many people will be eliminated. Moreover, it also tests everyone's willpower. The God test field is indeed not simple. The rules are basically flawless. Hey, Lu Wenxiu, who is the first? Medusa, who had her hair tied up in braids, came over. Lu Wenxiu looked at Yi Chen. Who do you think it will be? So powerful. He snatched the first place from Black Destruction King Zhu Jian. How could Du Sha not understand Lu Wenxiu's meaning? Du Sha was not the only one who was shocked. The others nearby also knew who was the first from Lu Wenxiu's eyes. I didn't expect Zhu Jian to lose. Seems like he is only SOSO. The one who spoke had an incomparably tall and sturdy body. His body was filled with explosive power, and his every movement gave off an oppressive feeling. He was the 61st ranked demon elephant by DI. In terms of power, he was countless times stronger than the 99th ranked Iron Tiger King. The latter did not even have the qualifications to carry his shoes. Bang! A terrifying scene occurred. Just as Demon Mammoth by DI finished speaking, his huge body suddenly exploded. A fist slowly retracted. It was the King of Black Destruction, Zhu Jian. Looking around, everyone felt as if the sky had darkened. There was nothing but emptiness. The only thing they could see was a pair of indifferent eyes. Plop plop plop, the sound of heartbeats rang out in everyone's mind. The scene was dead silent. It was completely silent. In the next moment, the pressure disappeared. Those indifferent eyes shifted their target and looked at Yi Chen, who was supporting Lan Xian not far away. Apart from a few people, most people did not dare to breathe. Their gazes also fell on Yi Chen. They did not know what would happen next. Young Master Yi, be careful. After arriving at the destination, the veritable essence in Lan Xian's body recovered, and she gradually woke up. However, the Black Destruction King's gaze made her heart tighten. It doesn't matter. He can't do anything to me. Yi Chen said lightly. Oh, really? The King of Black Destruction's voice sounded. Letting go of Lan Xianer's hands, Yi Chen turned around and looked at the King of Black Destruction with his long and narrow eyes. If you want to fight, you can do it now. I also want to see what kind of level a King of Body Refinement can reach with the selfless state. I hope it will be the same as Lung Feifen. Lung Feifen. The cross-scarred swordsman's pupils shrank. Have you met Lung Feifen? Du Sha murmured. Although the lifeless swordsman Lung Feifen was ranked 7th, the Heaven King list was updated once every 3 years. This was the ranking from 3 years ago. With Lung Feifen's rapid progress, no one could say for sure what his current ranking would be. However, he would at least be within the top 7, or even top 3. He might even be first place. There will be plenty of opportunities to fight in the future. Why are you in such a hurry? Our Vermilion Bird Starfield isn't the only place in the Divine Trial Field. The Azure Dragon Starfield, the White Tiger Starfield, and the Black Tortoise Starfield are also full of experts. At that time, your hands and legs will be weak. The one who came out to stop the fight was Lu Wanxiu. He stood between the two and shrugged helplessly. If it was someone else, Zhu Jian would definitely tell them to scram. Although he didn't want to fight with Yi Chen right now, it was Lu Wanxiu. Although Zhu Jian was confident he could beat Lu Wanxiu, he wouldn't ignore him. Lu Wanxiu's talent was known to all. He was as famous as Lung Feifen. Such a person, no matter how hard he worked, as long as he didn't lose interest in cultivation, his future would be bright. Let's postpone our battle. I hope you won't disappoint me too much. Turning around, Zhu Jian strode away. Zhu Jian's departure allowed the crowd to heave a sigh of relief. Other than Lu Wanxiu and a few others, no one could withstand more than 2 or 3 moves from him. Even someone as powerful as the demonic elephant by DI was smashed to pieces by a single punch from him. However, at the same time, the crowd was also very curious about this mysterious swordsman, Yi Chen. They were the elite geniuses of the Vermilion Bird Starfield. They might not have heard of ordinary geniuses, but a swordsman that even Zhu Jian didn't dare to casually challenge was something they had never heard of. Lu Wanxiu, you're such a busybody. This old lady still wants to see their battle. Du Sha lamented. Lu Wanxiu softly said, they are the top experts of our Vermilion Bird Starfield. It would be a pity to eliminate either one of them. In any case, the Divine Trial Field has just begun. There will be many more opportunities in the future. Let's go. Yi Chen walked toward the 3rd dot on the light screen. Okay. Lan Xianer nodded obediently. Yi Chen's mysteriousness was beyond her imagination. Even the famous Dark Destruction King Zhu Jian seemed to be very afraid of him. Fate was just this strange. If she hadn't been asleep for 5 years, her sister Lan Xin wouldn't have gone to the Black Death Secret Realm to find the Soul Return Fruit. If she hadn't gone to the Black Death Secret Realm, she wouldn't have met Yi Chen, and she wouldn't have received Yi Chen's guidance. The 3rd trial was a huge stone forest. At the entrance of the stone forest, there was also a wooden board with the rules of the 3rd trial written on it. The general meaning was that after entering the stone forest, one would be randomly teleported to a rock. The 5 people on the rock formed a small group, and their goal was to kill a designated small group. If they could kill the small group without any losses, they would pass. If they lost one person, they would pass according to their ranking. Only 30 small groups could pass the 3rd trial. In general, the top 30 groups would pass, and the bottom 30 would be eliminated. There were 250 people present, and they could be roughly divided into more than 50 small groups. In addition, other than the target group, they weren't allowed to kill other groups. Otherwise, they would be eliminated. As for who the target group was, there was no need to worry. After entering, the trial talisman would show the image of the target group members. Interesting. Is this a test of our teamwork? Hunting was different from fighting head-on. In a head-on battle, it was possible for a person to kill 5 or even 10 people. However, hunting was different. The opponent would definitely be hiding in the dark and wouldn't give you a chance to fight head-on unless you were very confident in yourself. Most importantly, your group couldn't lose too many people. If you lost one person, you might be eliminated. If you lost more than 2 people, there was basically no hope. What was needed was teamwork, not individual heroism. Zhu Jian frowned and walked in. Then, everyone walked into the stone forest. Swoosh. The next moment, everyone was teleported to different places. Yi Chen appeared on a rock that had been pushed down. There were 4 people beside him, a 2-meter-tall, coquettish woman with braids, a short, ordinary young man who looked very dexterous, a sturdy young man, and a young man with a huge bow on his back. What a coincidence. Now I should be able to see him fight. Du Shuo was secretly happy. Yi Chen said, "My name is Yi Chen, swordsman. I am Du Shuo. I am very confident in my body movement. In addition, my talent is petrification." Du Shuo didn't mean to hide her ability, but there was no need to. She was ranked 48th on the Sky King list. Everyone knew what abilities she had. As long as she didn't expose her killer moves, it would be fine. Lu Renyi, good at lurking, tracking, and assassination. The short young man said lightly. The young man said in a low voice, "I don't have any special skills. I just have a strong defense and am good at head-on attacks." Xiao Shui, archer. The young man with the huge bow introduced. Yi Chen nodded and said, "Our team is not bad. We have assassins and archers." Du Shuo's petrification ability is also a killer move. Under the circumstances, assassins could kill people who were much stronger than themselves. Archers could suppress their opponents from a distance. The petrification ability was even better. Once the opponent was petrified, they could only be fish on the chopping board. Buzz. Suddenly, the trial runes on the chests of the 5 people lit up. A light screen appeared out of nowhere. On the light screen, the images of the 5 people appeared. 100-Face Fox King Kui Bailey, Ghost Shadow Perplexing Steps Duan Fan. Du Shuo's eyes narrowed. 100-Face Fox King Kui Bailey, ranked 33rd on the Sky King list. Ghost Shadow Perplexing Steps Duan Fan, ranked 56th on the Sky King list. Both of them were not only on the Sky King list, but they were very agile and terrifying. They might not be the best in a head-on fight, but if they were in an advantageous situation, they could easily kill their opponents. 100-Face Fox King is extremely cunning and has keen senses. Duan Fan's stealth and assassination ability is far above mine. Don't let me deal with them. Lu Renyi didn't want to deal with people he couldn't deal with, unless it was a last resort. Don't worry. You just need to assassinate this person. Yi Chen pointed to one of them. This person had the weakest aura. No problem. I promise to complete the task. Oh no. Our opponent is actually him. On the 100-Face Fox King Kui Bailey's side, besides Kui Bailey and Duan Fan, the other 3 were pale. Yi Chen on the light screen brought them despair. Chapter 1056. Although Kui Bailey and Duan Fan did not look as bad as them, they still had a bad look on their faces. Among the group, there were 5 people that they were most afraid of: Black Destruction King Zhu Jian, Soul Slasher Blade by Li Huan, Ghost Genius Lu Wenxiu, Death Illusion Master Ji Chengyu, and Sword Artist Yi Chen. There were more than 50 groups, and the chance of them running into these 5 people was only 1 in 10. Brother Kui, what do you think we should do? The battle hasn't even started, but 3 of us have already lost our fighting spirit. This is not a good sign. Duan Fan slowly exhaled and asked. Kui Bailey said, "If we want to kill him, we have no chance of winning. But why do we have to kill him? As long as we kill his team members, victory will belong to us. These are 2 different concepts." That's right. The 3rd test is about teamwork. Only with teamwork can we succeed. It seems that it is necessary to give them more confidence. Just the 2 of us are not enough. The 2 quickly realized that teamwork was the only hope for victory. Since there was a group, there would naturally be a leader. Although Yi Chen was not interested in being the leader, he could not refuse the position because it was related to passing the test. Under the recommendation of the 4 people, he became the leader of this group. Lu Renyi, you are responsible for assassinating one of them. After the assassination is successful, lurk again and wait for an opportunity to kill the other opponents. Du Shuo, you and Lu Renyi should have no problem dealing with one of them, right? Yi Chen turned to look at Du Sha. Du Sha said, "Don't worry, I only need 2 moves to finish them off." Nodding, Yi Chen said to Xiao Shui, "You don't need to get close to them. Your task is to occupy the high ground and suppress the opponents according to your judgment. As for me, I will deal with Fox King Kui Bailey and Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track Duan Fan." "What about me?" The young giant was called Ouyang Tai. "Your task is to wait. The moment the 2 groups start fighting, you will intercept the last person." Ouyang Tai was not talented in stealth and would only ruin things. Therefore, his task was the lightest. He only needed to hide and attack when the battle started. As time passed, the 5 separated by hundreds of meters. With Yi Chen as the arrowhead, they slowly moved forward. Ouyang Tai and Xiao Shui followed at the back. Buzz. Suddenly, the trial talisman lit up and the 5 human figures on the light screen disappeared. "Leader," they disappeared. Lu Renyi's voice rang out from the trial talisman. This voice was wrapped up by the trial talisman's power and directly entered Yi Chen's ears. The rock forest was the same as the dense fog forest. It was impossible to release one's soul force. The only method of communication here was true essence sound transmission. But, true essence sound transmission required one to know the other's position. This was very difficult to accomplish, but they soon discovered that the smelting trial symbol could be used to send true essence sound transmissions. Of course, they had to be in a small group. Yi Chen deduced, it should be one of the hidden rules of Stone Forest. When the distance between the 2 parties is within a certain range, the trial talisman will turn off its detection function. Now, we need to slow down and be patient. After walking for a while, Yi Chen suddenly said, "Du Sha, go to my position. Xiao Shui, Ouyang Tai, be careful of the ambush from behind." Xiao Shui asked hesitantly, "You suspect that they will circle behind us?" "We have to be careful." Originally, with the trial talisman's detection function, they only needed to move forward. But, with the trial talisman's detection function gone, they had no choice but to be careful. Team battles were ever-changing and required a strong ability to adapt to any situation. Letting Du Sha go to his position was because she was strong enough. Even if she encountered the 100-face Fox King Kui Bailey, it would be impossible for her to be instantly killed. As for him, he would move back and maintain a horizontal line with Xiao Shui and Ouyang Tai in case of a sneak attack. This way, he could attack and retreat and not be caught off guard. "Leader." Du Sha quietly arrived at Yi Chen's side. Yi Chen said, "Be careful. Right now, your task is the most important. If they don't circle behind us, you will be responsible for delaying them for a while. Of course, I don't think they will take the risk to attack you without knowing who the enemy is. They will definitely be wary of the rest of us. So, if you encounter such a situation, you don't need to risk your life to fight them. Try to delay them as much as possible." "Understood." Du Sha nodded. Soon, Yi Chen was 500 meters to the right of Xiao Shui. While advancing, he carefully sensed the movements behind him. After about half a cup of tea's time, the advancing speed of the 5 people slowed down. It wasn't because they sensed something, but because of the invisible killing intent. They knew that the enemy was not far from them and could attack at any time. Lu Renyi majored in Shadow Profound. His whole body blended into the shadows of the rocks and became indistinguishable from the surrounding environment. At this moment, there was an inaudible movement from the front left. "There's movement. No, it's probably a trap. Maybe it's a doppelganger. Oh well, I can alert them." Lu Renyi's shadow split into 2. One of the shadows moved stealthily towards the source of the commotion. When it was less than 100 meters away from the source of the movement, the shadow suddenly stood up and silently flew over like a ghost. On the way, it turned into Lu Renyi's image. Ding! Both sides exchanged blows. Their speed was extremely fast. Lu Renyi endured and did not move. "No, it's the real body." Suddenly, Lu Renyi's face flashed with astonishment. His shadow doppelganger did not even last for a breath's time and was directly killed by the opponent. This made him understand that it was not the opponent's doppelganger, but the opponent's real body. Without hesitation, Lu Renyi darted out, turning into countless shadows that were hard to distinguish. Over at Du Sho's side, she was being attacked by dozens of red foxes. Although these red foxes were formed from demonic energy, they possessed astonishing speed and could even breathe fire. This was the innate ability of the 100 Changes Fox King Kui Bailey, 100 Foxes attack. With a wave of his palm, the red foxes were petrified one after another. Du Sho did not dare to be careless. Kui Bailey's real body must be one of the red foxes. If the opponent did not attack, it would definitely be an earth-shattering attack. Behind, Ouyang Tai's hair stood on end. There were actually 3 enemies attacking him. Could it be that the target team had circled to the back? Among these 3 people, one was Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track, the other 2 were holding a spear, and the other had extraordinary leg skills. The 3 of them formed a triangle and instantly surrounded Ouyang Tai. Xiao. Xiao Shui subconsciously drew his bow and shot an arrow at Duan Fan, who posed the greatest threat to Ouyang Tai. The bowstring vibrated and 12 sharp arrows shot out, turning into 12 shadows. Puff, 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 puff. Out of the 12 sharp arrows, 4 of them pierced through Duan Fan's body. However, Xiao Shui's face turned pale. That was a doppelganger, not the real body. He had fallen into a trap. Die. Duan Fan appeared behind Xiao Shui out of nowhere, his black dagger aimed at the back of his head. Puff. The one who died was not Xiao Shui, but Duan Fan. His head flew up. The one who attacked was Yi Chen. However, this wasn't his true form. His true form was still hidden near Ouyang Tai. In the instant that Ouyang Tai was fighting with the other 2, he shot out, his black dagger transforming into a black poisonous snake. The snake's tongue flicked out, and killing intent exploded out. Even with Ouyang Tai's defense, if he was hit by this attack, he would still be stunned. And once he was stunned, the 2 people fighting with him could kill him in an instant. Puff. This time, Duan Fan's head flew up again, blood splattering everywhere. This was his real body, and the one who attacked him was actually Yi Chen. What? Don't tell me he can teleport. Duan Fan's flying head mumbled. In the rock forest, not only could one's soul power not be released, the whole forest was also enveloped by a heavy power. In one breath, one could only travel 200 to 300 meters, which was extremely slow. Xiao Shui's current position was more than 600 meters away from here. If he wanted to come over, he would need at least 2 breaths of time. But now, not even half a breath had passed. How did the other party come over and hide so well that even he couldn't find him? He actually saw through Duan Fan's doppelganger. Then, this one must be fake. If I can kill one, I'll kill one. A figure appeared beside Xiao Shui. It was the 100 Faces Fox King, Kui Bailey. The red fox that attacked Du Sho was created by his innate ability, not his real body. Puff. After killing Yi Chen's doppelganger, Kui Bailey attacked Xiao Shui. He had absolute confidence that he could kill his opponent in one move. Arrowless shot. Unexpectedly, Xiao Shui seemed to be aware of his existence. He quickly released the bowstring, but there was no arrow on it. Bang! The invisible arrow chi obstructed Kui Bailey for a moment. Xiao Shui took the opportunity to increase the distance between them, but in the next moment, he was blocked by another member of his opponent's team. You can't escape. Kui Bailey was expressionless. Duan Fan had been killed, which meant that they were doomed to fail. But before that, they had to drag the other party down with them, so that their team would not be able to reach the top 30. Kui Bailey, your opponent is me. A stone wall formed between Kui Bailey and Xiao Shui. Du Sho had rushed over. Me too. Lu Renyi waved his palm, and countless hidden weapons flew towards Kui Bailey. Seeing this scene, Kui Bailey was instantly disappointed. He understood that he didn't even have the qualifications to drag the other party down. Although they had 2 people on their side, they couldn't kill 3 people in a short period of time. Even Du Sho alone wouldn't be easy to deal with. On the other side, Duan Fan had been killed. The young man with the spear and the young man with the powerful leg technique had their faces ashen. Puff, puff. Their heads fell to the ground. The 2 of them had been killed by Yi Chen in an instant. In this way, Yi Chen's side had 5 people against 2. Naturally, it was a piece of cake. Even if Kui Bailey had entered the Anatta state, it wouldn't be of any use. That was close. Lu Renyi wiped his sweat. Previously, when his shadow doppelganger was killed, he thought that the other party was Duan Fan's real body. He didn't expect that it was still a doppelganger, Duan Fan's doppelganger. Then, he received a message from Yi Chen and immediately rushed over. It was indeed very close. Yi Chen nodded. There wasn't a single enemy in front of them. The other party's 5 people had all gone to the back. As for the front, only Duan Fan's doppelganger and the red fox that Kui Bailey had created with his talent ability were left behind to delay them. The other party's goal was obviously to kill Xiao Shui and Ouyang Tai in an instant. Ouyang Tai was their target. As for Xiao Shui, they would kill him if they could. If Yi Chen arrived, they would give up. However, they underestimated Yi Chen's eyesight. Yi Chen instantly sensed that Duan Fan's doppelganger was near Xiao Shui. At the same time, Kui Bailey and another person were hiding nearby. Therefore, he first created a shadow doppelganger to deal with Duan Fan's doppelganger while his real body rushed over to Ouyang Tai's side. Of course, he had already reminded Du Shuo and Lu Renyi to rush over to help Xiao Shui. In short, in terms of strategy, Yi Chen's side had completely lost. After all, the opponent was Kui Bailey, an extremely cunning fox king. Chapter 1057. After killing Kui Bailey's team without any losses, Yi Chen's group was sent out of the rock forest and arrived at a fork in the road. There were 5 paths in front of them, but they were blocked by an invisible force. It was estimated that they would have to wait for the others to arrive before the blockade could be lifted. Mr. Yi. There was only one group that was faster than Yi Chen's group. This group was led by the evil-looking young man. Lan Xian'er was also among them. Seeing Yi Chen appear, she hurried over. "You guys are quite fast," Yi Chen said. Lan Xian'er glanced at the evil-looking young man in the distance and said, "Actually, I didn't play much of a role. We have the illusionist of death, Ji Chengyu. His illusions have reached the realm of perfection." The 5 people in the target group were all under his illusions. Illusionist of death, Ji Chengyu, ranked 15th on the Sky King list, was the #1 illusionist of the younger generation in the Vermilion Birdstar region. It was said that his illusions had reached the realm of being able to be released from his heart. He could attach his illusions to others, and once touched, they would suffer the backlash of the illusions. If a team had an illusionist, the strength of the team would increase by at least 1 level. If they had a top illusionist like Ji Chengyu, the strength of the team would undoubtedly multiply. This person is dangerous. Although he is ranked 15th, the top 10 could only win by a hair's breadth. Now that 3 years have passed, his level of danger is no less than that of the top 5. Du Shuo explained to Yi Chen. Yi Chen nodded. Illusionists were indeed very dangerous people. They could easily win against people who were stronger than them, but they could also lose to people who were slightly weaker than them. It all depended on how much resistance you had against illusions, and whether or not you could break the opponent's illusions. If you could not, then you would be trapped in the illusions, and would be nothing more than a fish on the chopping board. Soon, the 3rd team that passed the test appeared. The team leader was Master Sai Suo, ranked 77th on the Sky King list. In the field of illusions in the Vermilion Birdstar region, only Ji Chengyu could beat him. It was said that his illusions could control the 5 senses. Lu Wenxiu, Bai Lihuan, Black-Feathered Leopard King, Qiao Erlang. Basically, all the geniuses on the Sky King list had passed in their groups. Only the Dark Destruction King, Zhu Jian, had not passed. "I'm afraid Zhu Jian won't make it this time." Qiao Erlang shook his head. Du Shuo said, "Zhu Jian's strength is incomparably great, and his aura is unrivaled by mine. However, it is also because of this that he is obstinate and self-opinionated. He likes to be straightforward and thinks that his own strength is enough to solve everything. If my guess is correct, he will definitely want to use a head-on battle to finish off his opponent. Unfortunately, his opponent will not do as he wishes. If he wants to pass this stage, he can only let the more intelligent person in the group become the team leader and listen to his commands. Just as Du Shuo had said, Zhu Jian had almost fallen into a desperate situation. In the beginning, he was the team leader. His plan was to go all out and ignore everything else. However, what he did not expect was that the other party did not fight them head-on at all. First, they used doppelgangers and fake bodies to attract their team's strength, then killed 2 of their members from the side, and finally retreated calmly. Facing Zhu Jian, who had almost gone berserk, of the remaining 2 people, the more intelligent and calm young man, disregarding the possibility of angering Zhu Jian, suggested to the other party that he be the team leader and listen to his commands. Otherwise, they would all be eliminated, including Zhu Jian. Although Zhu Jian was conceited, he had lost 2 of his team members. No matter how conceited he was, he had to admit that he was not good at scheming. In other words, he was too lazy to use his brain. Forcefully suppressing his anger, Zhu Jian agreed to the other party's suggestion. In the end, Zhu Jian's group of 3 passed. Their ranking was very dangerous, 29th place. The 30th place group also lost 2 members, so they passed slightly slower than them. Out of the 30 groups, 12 groups were unharmed, 15 groups lost 1 member, and 3 groups lost 2 members. In total, there were 129 people. In just 3 stages, the number of people from the Vermilion Bird Starfield had dropped from 15,000 to 129. The elimination rate was shocking. No one knew what the 4th stage was going to be. There were 5 paths leading to the 4th stage. On the wooden sign, it was written that any one of the paths could lead to the 4th stage. The difference was that the 5 paths represented 5 different 4th stages. 5 different 4th stages. So, it's possible to choose a trial that you're not good at, or you can choose a trial that you're good at. Lu Wenxio's words hit the nail on the head. Hearing this, everyone nodded in their hearts. Indeed, the trial of God wasn't just a test of martial strength. Otherwise, there would be no need to create so many stages. Just a simple martial arts competition would do. The first stage tested survival ability, the second stage tested willpower, and the third stage tested teamwork. As for the 4th stage, it was likely that it wouldn't be simple either. I hope I can choose the 4th stage that I'm not good at. Lu Wenxio smiled lightly and walked toward the 4th path. 5 paths, but there is only one. The 5 paths seemed to lead them to face different 4th trials, but what difference did it make? No matter what the 4th trial was, they had to challenge it. This was something that would not change. If they were hesitant when faced with 5 paths that led to the unknown, it meant that their hearts were not firm enough. Yi Chen walked toward the middle path, which was the 3rd path. Lan Xiana thought about it and didn't choose to walk with Yi Chen. If she wanted to be independent, she had to learn to be independent. Just as Yi Chen had said, relying on others wouldn't last long. She could only rely on herself. There were many people on the Heaven King list who chose the same path as Yi Chen, such as the 24th ranked Black Feathered Leopard King, the 42nd ranked Great Axe Qiao Erlang, and the 48th ranked Beautiful Snake Tusha. Of course, there were even more elite geniuses who weren't on the Heaven King list. There were 20 to 30 of them. At the end of the path was a huge palace. The palace had 4 doors that led to 4 different paths. Yi Chen's group had come from the southern path. Before entering the palace, they could already hear noises coming from inside. Hey! There are voices inside. It seems that the 4th stage is to meet up with people from the other 3 major starfields, Tusha said. Qiao Erlang smiled. That's more interesting. The Black-Feathered Leopard King nodded. That's right. It's best if we can meet the strange Wolf King. Let's see who's faster. Stepping forward, Yi Chen's group entered the palace through the southern path. Hua! The moment they appeared, they became the center of attention. Countless gazes came from the east, west, and north. Some were curious, some were disdainful, and some were cold. The people from the Vermilion Bird Starfield are here, but they don't seem to have any strong experts. There are only 3 people on the Heaven King list. Not bad, at least it's better than the Black Tortoise Starfield. There are only 2 people on the Heaven King list, and less than 20 people passed. The ones who spoke were the elites from the Azure Dragon and White Tiger starfields. It was common knowledge that among the 4 major starfields, the Azure Dragon starfield was the strongest. The White Tiger starfield was slightly inferior, but in terms of top experts, they weren't inferior to the Azure Dragon starfield. The second was the Vermilion Bird starfield, and the weakest was the Black Tortoise starfield. The Black Tortoise starfield had always been at the bottom. Damn it, just wait and see. This time, our Black Tortoise starfield will shine. In the northern area, the Black Tortoise starfield's elites were indignant. This was a huge arena with 10 arenas on it. Each arena was a few hundred square miles. The area of the arena was shocking. Around the arena were stands for the east, west, south, and north. The Vermilion Bird starfield's platform corresponded to the southern viewing platform. Arriving at the southern viewing platform, Xiao Erlang commented, "The Azure Dragon starfield is indeed worthy of its reputation. There are more than 50 people, almost twice our number." The Black Feather Leopard King added, "The White Tiger starfield is not weak either, they also have more than 40 people. From the number of people who passed, one could tell the strength of each starfield. The Azure Dragon starfield had slightly more people than the White Tiger starfield, roughly on the same level. The Vermilion Bird starfield and the Black Tortoise starfield were roughly on the same level. However, the Vermilion Bird starfield and the Black Tortoise starfield combined were only equal to 1 White Tiger starfield or 1 Azure Dragon starfield. This was the difference. With the arrival of Yi Chen's group, everyone's trial talismans lit up, displaying the 4th stage rules on the light screen. The 4th stage rules were simple. 10 battle stages, 10 battle stage masters, the one who could last until the end would pass. However, everyone had one chance to be eliminated. In other words, after you were defeated in a challenge, you still had another chance to challenge the other battle stage masters. If you failed the second challenge, you would be eliminated. When there were only 10 people left, in other words, 10 battle stage masters, the 4th stage would end. Only 10 people can pass. Du Shou's expression turned solemn. There were a total of 150 people present, but in the end, only 10 of them would pass, the other 140 would be eliminated. Be careful, Yi Chen cautioned. That's right. Xiao Erlang nodded. Including Yi Chen, they had 4 Heaven King list participants on their side, but the Azure Dragon starfield had even more, a total of 8, 7 from the White Tiger starfield, and 2 from the Black Tortoise starfield. In total, there were 21 participants competing for 10 spots. One could imagine how difficult it would be. More than half of them would be eliminated. This did not include those powerful geniuses who were not ranked on the Heaven King list. For example, Yi Chen was strong enough to challenge the Black Destruction King, Zhu Jian, but he was not ranked on the Heaven King list. Who knew if there would be someone on the same level as Yi Chen? No, even if there was someone slightly weaker than him, it was already terrifying. 10 spots, is it? That's a little challenging. The Azure Dragon starfield's side also fell silent. Although they were strong, it was impossible for them to occupy all 10 spots, not even 5. The White Tiger starfield was not much weaker than them. The Vermilion Bird starfield and Black Tortoise starfield combined were equivalent to 1 White Tiger starfield. In this case, according to the probability, they could only occupy 1/3 of the spots, in other words, 3 or 4 spots. The others would be eliminated. Chapter 1058. Wang. All of a sudden, 10 people were teleported onto the stage by an invisible force. 2 from the Azure Dragon starfield, 3 from the White Tiger starfield, 3 from the Vermilion Bird starfield, and 2 from the Black Tortoise starfield. From the looks of it, whoever was chosen would be the winner. There was no room for discussion. However, this was good as well. No one was willing to be the stage master from the start, unless they were extremely confident in themselves. So unlucky, the first person to be chosen is the stage master. The first one to be the stage master will be eliminated the fastest. Fine, I want to see how many rounds I can last. The 10 people who were forcibly chosen as the stage masters had different expressions on their faces, but they soon regained their composure. Since they were already here, there was nothing to worry about. Haha, I am the Azure Dragon Starfield's Yang Ding Cheng. Everyone says that the Black Tortoise Starfield attaches great importance to defense. I want to see if my Azure Dragon Sky-Crushing Hand can break through your defense. Yang Dingcheng's strength wasn't considered high. Among the 50-plus Azure Dragon Starfield experts present, he ranked at most in the top 20. Knowing that he wouldn't be able to pass, Yang Dingcheng decided to give it his all. At the last moment, he wanted to shine with his own brilliance, so that others would remember him. Su. In a flicker, Yang Dingcheng appeared on the 4th stage. The person standing on the stage was an elite genius from the Black Tortoise Starfield. This person had a stocky build, exuding a steady aura. One look and anyone could tell he was the defensive type. I am Zheng Wu. Seeing Yang Dingcheng come up, Zheng Wu cupped his fists. Enough nonsense, take this. Yang Dingcheng roared like a tiger, leaping into the air and striking out with his palm. As his palm struck out, an azure dragon condensed from his true essence rushed out. Giant spirit palm. Like Yang Dingcheng, Zheng Wu specialized in palm techniques. Facing Yang Dingcheng's azure dragon sky-crushing hand, he neither dodged nor dodged. The muscles on his right hand squirmed, expanding to several meters in length as he met the attack head-on. Rumble. The berserk energy radiated in all directions, forcing Zheng Wu to retreat a dozen steps, leaving a dozen shallow footprints on the arena floor. Yang Dingcheng somersaulted in the air, dissipating the force of the impact. Then, like an azure dragon, he sent out another palm strike towards Zheng Wu. Just like that, one on the ground, the other in the air, like a soaring dragon, the two of them fought fiercely. Azure Dragon Soul Lock. After dozens of moves, Yang Dingcheng displayed his ultimate move. A vivid and lifelike Xinyuan Azure Dragon coiled around Zheng Wu's body. Yang Dingcheng grabbed out with his hand, and Zheng Wu's entire body exploded. When he reappeared, he was already below the stage. The structure of this Xinyuan Azure Dragon is too strong. It's like a real body. Zheng Wu still had a lingering fear in his heart. There were strong and weak things formed from Xinyuan or one's own energy. The strong ones had a natural and reasonable structure, while the weak ones only had the form, just like the difference between a diamond and carbon. I have dissected a few inferior dragons before. I am very clear about their structure. Being entangled by my Xinyuan Azure Dragon is no different from being entangled by an inferior dragon of the same level. Yang Dingcheng smiled. Yang Dingcheng, I, Yang Daxiong, challenge you. Their own Starfield's genius was defeated, losing his position as the stage lord. Some people from the Black Tortoise Starfield couldn't sit still. Most of them were destined to be eliminated. If they didn't challenge now, when would they? Challengers also appeared on other stages. The identities of these challengers were generally different from the stage lord. For example, if the stage lord was from the Vermilion Bird Starfield, then the challengers were definitely not from the Vermilion Bird Starfield, but from the other 3 starfields. The Azure Dragon Starfield and White Tiger Starfield had the most challengers, thus forming a cycle. For example, the stage lord was originally from the Vermilion Bird Starfield, but he was defeated by a genius from another starfield. No matter what, his own starfield had to retaliate. Of course, those who challenged at the beginning were those who thought they couldn't pass. Only a small number of Heavenly King ranking experts actually challenged. Other than that, there was a special rule in the 4th stage. Once a challenger failed, they had to challenge again within a quarter of an hour. They were not allowed to continue watching. In this way, more and more people were eliminated. Roughly 2 hours later, the number of eliminated people had reached 120. Other than the 10 stage lords, the Azure Dragon Starfield had 7 people, the White Tiger Starfield had 6, the Vermilion Bird Starfield had 4, and the White Tiger Starfield had 3. Stage number 1 will be occupied by me, Aokiji King. Finally, a powerful Heavenly King ranked expert made his move. He was the Azure Dragon Starfield's Aokiji King, ranked 13th on the Heavenly King list. Among those present on the Heavenly King list, he was ranked 3rd, second only to another expert from the Azure Dragon Starfield and another expert from the White Tiger Starfield. Stage number 1 forfeits. Du Sha shook her head. Risking his life against Aokiji King is unwise. Let him stay on stage number 1. The Black Feather Leopard King nodded. Leave him to me. Before the three people's astonished gazes, Yi Chen leaped onto stage number 1 in a flicker. Once Yi Chen makes his move, stage number 1 is in the bag. Once Aokiji King is defeated, within a quarter of an hour, we should not become the other stage lords, lest we become Aokiji King's target. Du Sha had seen Yi Chen's moves in the rock forest. Even the powerful ghost shadow perplexing steps Duan Fan and the 100-face fox King Kui Bailey were killed with a single sword strike. His elusive figure and unpredictable sword speed all told Du Sha that Yi Chen's strength was beyond her imagination. Aokiji King is ranked 13th on the Heavenly King list. It shouldn't be so easy to defeat him, although I also think that Yi Chen is very strong. The Black Feather Leopard King said. Qiao Erlang said, Aokiji King is the king of body refinement. In the past 3 years, he must have made great progress and may not lose to the top 10 figures. However, in comparison, like Du Sha, I am more optimistic about Yi Chen. Yi Chen's challenge to Aokiji King made many people curious. He actually dares to challenge Aokiji King. He is simply reckless. Aokiji King's demon dragon killing fist can penetrate a huge star of 100,000 miles, which is many times more powerful than a simple star shattering. If my guess is right, Aokiji King must have refined 30% of the monster factor and entered the demon monster realm. The remaining geniuses of the Azure Dragon Star area were talking about it, full of confidence in Aokiji King. No, Aokiji King is in danger. The one who spoke was standing at the forefront, a tall, cold and elegant young woman in a blue dress. Green Lightning King, why do you say that? If it was someone else who said this, they would definitely be dismissive and even ridiculed, but the one who spoke was none other than Green Lightning King Jiyu Qingxue, who ranked the highest in the Heaven King list. Green Lightning King Jiyu Qingxue, ranked 4th on the Heaven King list, had the Thunder Water astral body. Although the astral body was rare, there were still some in the universe. Unfortunately, the astral body had always been slightly inferior to others. Although each of them was an expert, it was difficult to overwhelm everyone. But Green Lightning King Jiyu Qingxue was different. Not only did she have the Thunder Water astral body, but her comprehension was also extremely high, not inferior to anyone. The 4th place on the Heaven King list was the best proof. It is impossible for him not to know Aokiji King's ranking, but he still dared to challenge him. He must have a certain degree of confidence. Jiyu Qingxue said lightly, Green Lightning King, this is just your guess. Maybe he is too confident and wants to use the battle record of defeating Aokiji King to make a name for himself. It was difficult for everyone to accept that an unknown swordsman had the combat power to compete with Aokiji King, although this thing had not happened yet. Whether it is or not, we will soon know, no need to say more. Jiyu Qingxue did not intend to explain. Finally, there is an interesting battle. In the stands where the White Tiger Starfield was located, a woman with platinum hair that fell to her calves smiled faintly. Her facial features were sharp, giving people an unusually sharp feeling. Platinum witch Qi Hongyang, ranked 9th on the Heaven King list. On the first ring, Aokiji King grinned. You actually dare to challenge me. I don't know whether to say that you are brave or reckless. Well, you don't seem to be weak. It should be able to relax my muscles and not be too boring. I advise you to stay vigilant, otherwise, the battle will be over soon. Yi Chen said without drawing his sword. If you have the ability, you can try. Frowning, Aokiji King's eyes were slightly cold. Patter patter. Footsteps sounded, and Yi Chen walked step by step toward the opponent. What's going on? Is this guy crazy? Yi Chen's action not only surprised Aokiji King, but also surprised the people in the stands. You've angered me. Aokiji King had never been looked down upon so much. With a flash, Aokiji King disappeared instantly, and when he reappeared, he was already on the side of Yi Chen. The muscles of his right hand wriggled, and his nails soared, turning into a terrible demonic claw, and fiercely grabbed Yi Chen's chest. So fast. The spectators only felt a blur in their eyes, and Aokiji King appeared beside Yi Chen. Die! Aokiji King roared. Boom! It was not Yi Chen who was injured, but Aokiji King. His right cheek was dented, and a large amount of blood and teeth splashed from his mouth that could not be closed. His eyes bulged, full of disbelief. The next moment, Aokiji King flew out and hit the protective shield of the first ring, unable to get up for a long time. I told you to be extremely vigilant. Yi Chen shook his head. His opponent's actions just now were extremely stupid. Even a lion would use its full strength to catch a rabbit. His opponent should have known this. Even if he was a nobody, he should not have been this careless and started fighting in close combat. Aokiji King was actually sent flying. When did he make a move? I don't know, I can't feel whether he made a move or not. The sound of gasping was heard, and the black-feathered leopard king and Xiao Erlang looked at Yi Chen as if they were looking at a monster. Although Du Shuo was used to it, she was still very surprised because she also did not see when Yi Chen made a move. In the rock forest, Yi Chen did not seem to go all out, and it was estimated that he only played a small part of his strength. Green Lightning King Jiyu Qingxue and Platinum Witch Qi Hongyang both had extremely dignified eyes. This was a very dangerous person. In his ordinary body, he had the power to tear the world. Chapter 1059. Roar. An inhuman roar came out of Aokiji King's throat. He supported himself with his hands on the ground and slowly straightened his body, staring at Yi Chen with his beastly eyes. You will regret that you didn't take the opportunity to defeat me. Aokiji King said coldly. Yi Chen said, I can defeat you now. I won't give you a chance. Roar. Aokiji King roared again. His eyes changed into the shape of a beast again. His body grew about 2/3 taller, and 3 spikes extended from his back. Each of these 3 spikes emitted a cyan halo, like a divine weapon inserted in his back. At the same time, a terrifying aura burst out from his body, making him look like a demon, but soon, this terrifying aura was restrained and did not spread out. Aokiji King's body instantly turned dark cyan, and his skin was as smooth as a dark cyan gem, glowing with a cold luster. It's similar to the second stage of Selfless Realm, Selfless Body. Yi Chen raised his eyebrows. Demon Beast Realm. Aokiji King has entered the Demon Beast Realm. The Demon Beast Realm belongs to the Selfless Realm of Demon Beasts. This realm does not need to rely on squeezing cell potential, it only needs to refine the Demon Beast factor. It is well known that the human form is the best fighting form. Of course, this human form does not only refer to human beings, but also humanoid creatures. Although demonic beasts were incomparably powerful in the early stages, the further they progressed, the less advantages they had, until they were at a disadvantage. This was because demonic beasts were too big, or in other words, too rough. In terms of power control, they were far inferior to their human form. Even if they transformed into humans, they were still demonic beasts in essence, and power control was never their strong suit. However, they could refine their demonic beast essence to refine their body and power. Refining demonic beast essence was to refine their demonic beast essence into pure power, allowing them to gradually evolve into humans. Because the power of demon beasts is too strong, once they refine too much demon beast factor, their power will even surpass that of human beings. Therefore, there is no need to squeeze cell potential. Their cell potential is so strong that there is no need to squeeze it. Aokiji King had refined 1/3 of the monster beast factor. In terms of realm, it was equivalent to the second stage of the selfless state, the selfless heavenly eye or the selfless body. However, it seemed that Aokiji King had taken the path of the selfless body. Legend has it that when a demon beast successfully refined all the demon beast genes in their body, they would forever be fixed in human form. This realm was called Sky Demon. Demonic Light Cannon. Aokiji King seemed to be a bit afraid of Yi Chen's attacking speed. Even if he had entered the demonic beast realm, he did not dare to get too close. From afar, he raised both of his hands repeatedly, and beams of dark blue light shot out from his palms. This dark blue light was formed by extremely compressed beast power, which was unbelievably powerful. Before entering the demonic beast realm, he would not be able to use it so easily. Swish 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 swish, Yi Chen's figure flashed continuously. Because his speed was too fast and his strength was too ingenious, sometimes he advanced, sometimes he retreated, sometimes he slowed down, and sometimes he sped up. This caused more and more Yi Chens to appear in the arena. In the end, there were hundreds of Yi Chens, causing the audience to be dumbfounded. This is the selfless heavenly eye realm? Someone said uncertainly. But after entering the selfless state, won't his pupils change color? His pupils are still black. Silver was a cold and ruthless color. After entering the selfless state, in the state of selfless, the pupils would turn silver, and further to the selfless heavenly eye realm, the pupils would be silver with gold. Gold was a symbol of nobility and rationality. Why can't I hit him at all? Aokiji King was full of astonishment. This demonic light cannon was very powerful compared to ordinary elite geniuses, but he did not think it could do anything to Yi Chen. However, as long as he was hit, he could make the opponent reveal a flaw, and then he could use the more powerful Demon Dragon Killing Fist to injure the opponent. Whatever, Demon Dragon Killing Fist. The color of Aokiji King's body quickly faded, from dark cyan to light cyan, and his right arm and right fist were dyed black by a large amount of dark cyan. Boom! Aokiji King punched at Yi Chen, and a dazzling black light erupted, faintly taking the form of a black dragon. Although this black dragon was not very distinct, it was brimming with brutality. It was more than 10 times more powerful than Yang Dingcheng's azure dragon sky-shattering hand. Anything in front of it would be swept away. The first stage of the selfless state is to stimulate one's own potential and then use it effectively. The second stage of the selfless state, the selfless body, is to transfer the potential to any part of the body at will, brewing and erupting, exerting even more terrifying power. The selfless state of the demon beasts is definitely different from that of humans, but the principle is roughly the same. Yi Chen did not know much about the demon beast realm, but he quickly saw that the demon beast realm and the selfless body had a certain degree of similarity. They both gathered potential in a certain place and brewed for an eruption. For example, Aokiji King's Demon Dragon Killing Fist gathered a large amount of potential in his right arm and right fist, bursting out in the form of 3 stacks. However, without 4 stacks, it is still a fabrication. The Demon Dragon Killing Fist was much more powerful than the 3rd stacks, approaching the 4th stacks. But it was still a bit weaker than the latter. Opening his right hand's 5 fingers, Yi Chen directly grabbed the black dragon's head. Puff! The black dragon's explosion could not cause any damage to Yi Chen. What? Aokiji King's mouth opened wide, his face full of shock. He was at the 4th sky of life and death realm. After entering the demon beast realm, the energy inside his body had increased drastically. After brewing for an eruption, it was equivalent to the 5th sky of life and death realm, which was 2 whole heavens higher than his opponent. With such a high foundation, even if he was weaker in other aspects, his opponent should not have been able to break through the Demon Dragon Killing Fist so easily. After all, he was not an ordinary person, but a 1 in a billion genius. The chances of him being defeated by someone with a higher cultivation realm was very low, not to mention 2 whole heavens above him. With his palm numb, Yi Chen felt a bit strained. His opponent's Demon Dragon Killing Fist was a bit weaker than the 4th stacks, and his 5 elements palm sword was not an ordinary 4th stacks. It was an attack based on the 4th stacks, which was much more powerful than the ordinary 4th stacks. However, his opponent's foundation was indeed much higher than his. Relying on the 5 elements palm sword alone would not be enough to beat him. Clang! Yi Chen unsheathed the demon slaughtering sword. You are qualified for me to unsheath my sword. Yi Chen said indifferently. Damn it! Aokiji King roared and launched another Demon Dragon Killing Fist. This fist seemed to have exhausted all of his potential, and his strength had reached a limit. Autumn Water. Autumn Water might not be as powerful as the 5 elements palm sword, but it was still a top-grade profound sword move. After the Metal Profound and Water Profound had both entered perfection, this move was not only powerful, but also gave off a dreamy feeling. For a moment, specks of moonlight shattered, and Yi Chen's figure swept past Aokiji King's body. Poochie. Aokiji King's head was thrown high into the air. However, Aokiji King's demon dragon killing fist didn't even touch Yi Chen. Instead, it bombarded the arena's protective cover, producing a loud explosion. In the next moment, Aokiji King's figure appeared below the arena. The rules of the God Test field were special. As long as one's vitals were hit, they would immediately leave the arena. After all, when one condensed a new body, the opponent could completely annihilate one's body. The birth of multiple stacks made it impossible for life and death experts to have an undying body. Unless one was like Yi Chen, every cell contained a powerful will. In that case, the cells would not be easily destroyed. Aokiji King lost. He actually defeated the 13th ranked Aokiji King. Just what is his background? At this moment, in everyone's eyes, Yi Chen had undoubtedly become an insurmountable existence. He was like a mountain standing on the first arena. Aokiji King had failed once. Within a quarter of an hour, he had to challenge other arena lords. Otherwise, he would be directly eliminated. In the end, Aokiji King became the third arena lord. He was a bit worried that White Tiger Starfield's platinum which would come to challenge him. Although he was not afraid, that was under normal circumstances. He could not afford to fail now. Once he failed, he would be eliminated and lose the chance to enter the fifth stage. As Aokiji King became the champion of the third ring, Du Sha also became the champion of the fifth ring, and Xiao Erlang became the champion of the seventh ring. Vermilion Bird Starfield has occupied too many quotas. They need to be suppressed. Azure Dragon Starfield sent out a Heavenly King ranking expert who was ranked higher than Xiao Erlang and defeated him. Helpless, Xiao Erlang went to challenge the 9th Arena Lord, but he ultimately failed and was completely eliminated. Subsequently, Du Sha was also challenged. Her opponent was a Heavenly King ranking expert of White Tiger Starfield. His ranking was a dozen ranks higher than Du Sha's, and he was called Thunderbolt King Tang Lin. Don't look down on me. Du Sha burst out with a super powerful battle power. Although she had not reached the demonic beast realm, she had refined nearly 1/3 of her demonic beast essence. Her arms could grow without any restrictions, as if they had no bones. Her right hand was a snake head, and her left hand was a sharp snake tail. Once her opponent's protective Jin Yuan was hit, he would be petrified immediately. After dozens of exchanges, Du Sha tore apart her opponent's protective Jin Yuan and defeated him. Next, the Black-Feathered Leopard King could not help but challenge the second arena. On the second arena, the Black-Feathered Leopard King was everywhere. His speed was unimaginably fast, and he kept adding wounds to his opponent's body. On the 99th attack, the Black-Feathered Leopard King tore off his opponent's head. At this point, there were only a dozen people left in the palace. Excluding the 10 arena lords on the arenas, there were only a few people left in the stands. They were Azure Lightning King Jiyu Qingxue from Azure Dragon Starfield, Platinum Witch Qi Hongyang from White Tiger Starfield, and a dark-skinned youngster from Black Tortoise Starfield. Brat, why don't you go? Qi Hongyang looked at the dark-skinned youngster. I'll wait for you guys to go first. The dark-skinned youngster bashfully smiled. Forget it, big sister won't bully you. I'll go first. Qi Hongyang did not dare to look down on the dark-skinned youngster. Everyone present had the appearance of a young man in their 20s. However, the dark-skinned youngster had the appearance of a teenager, looking 16 or 17. This meant that his cultivation speed was astonishingly fast, and he should have entered life and death realm at the age of 25. Of course, this did not mean that the dark-skinned youngster was younger than everyone present. Perhaps, he was already nearing 40 years old. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.